How are your businesses doing?
What's that?
How are your businesses
Oh,
doing?
it's winter time. I mean, it's just, I think everybody's ready for, yeah, we're doing okay, but it's difficult.
Yeah, cold weather, people stay in.
I see you're getting ready to start a trivia night.
Yep, on Tuesday nights, yep. Yeah, I guess I didn't realize how popular it is, but I mean, people are jacked up about it. And it's gonna be a professionally, I mean, it's gonna be on the screen, and it's gonna be a real deal.
Is it
That's
teams,
good.
did I hear?
Yeah, two people to 4 people.
That's what my daughter does that a lot in Boise, and she said it's really fun. And she said sometimes the facilitator fancies themselves a soon-to-be famous stand-up comic, so they try to be funny, and it's just kind of nice.
No, I think we'll have, yeah, there'll be some humor, it won't be just that, yeah, I think we'll be a fun night. So.
Great.
I'm not doing it MC. Oh, you're not. Kevin Johnston is doing MC the first night, and then we have about 2 or 3 people doing it.
I think they used to do it out at Boomers, didn't they?
Yeah.
And it drew a pretty good crowd out there.
And there's, like I said, we did a practice round, there's a lot of categories I have no idea. I mean, movie stars and.
If it's all the younger generation of things, then I
Yeah.
wouldn't do well on super current pop culture, but if it's on a variety of things, then it's kind of good.
Spam. Battle Mountain, Nevada. I don't know anybody there. Oops, let me sign that. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I gotta write things down so I don't forget. All right.
Good morning.
Put down my planning. Court case going on?
Yeah, there's a trial today.
All I know is I had to park far away too, farther than usual.
I'm on jury duty, but I got excused today.
How's everybody? We need to ask Mother Nature. Yeah, we'll kick her off. Why she only sitting over Burns? My husband woke up and he goes, "Is it Christmas again?" This isn't March.
What are you doing here for?
Top secret, man.
Top secret?
That's always, when you come to county court, we're asking for money. right?
Oh, sure. We're the opposite today.
Are you giving money?
We're getting. It's not much, but it's.
Maybe you should go first, okay?
I'm always trying to bring the good news.
Are we having a meeting next week or not?
We are,
What day?
the 22nd, Wednesday. Sure.
So does the data pilot stuff, they support the corrections department as well as wildlife stuff?
Which one?
Is that aviation related as? What? Correct. I'd seen an earlier one that made sense somewhere else. Corrections. Do they like,
I don't know who that is.
do you know what Data Pilot Inc. is? It might be more data than pilot for all I know, but
I was gonna say,
I don't
I
think it's
saw it,
anything
I saw it
pilot
on
either.
some that looked like it was aviation
It's
store.
for
That was in corrections.
corrections. I wonder if that's their jail software.
I'm just.
Maybe so. I'm trying to think. Maybe let me see where else I saw it.
What was it, data pilot what?
Inc. One word. Haven't really noticed that one, but looks like we bought a vehicle in the sheriff's department and a county vehicle as well, or what's the $5,000 one?
So they bought it, the sheriff's office. had a vehicle.
50,000,
Yeah,
and then
and then there were other fees that they needed to outfit it and everything, so the total on it, I think, come to like 72.
oh, so
So they had to take it out of two different line items. They had budgeted 50,000 for this year, and then they took some.
under non-departmental Burns Ford vehicle purchase of 5251, that's a different thing. A purchase. Did the county purchase a type of vehicle of some sort?
It was an F-150 pickup. It's the only one that I'm aware of.
Wouldn't that go under a department?
Well, it should have, and that's why they had 50,000,
Yeah, I saw that in the department, but this is in non-departmental.
another 52,000.
No, 5,200, 5251.
Oh, well, I think that's what I'm saying. So they had to outfit it. So they used what was it? I know they split it up between two lines.
Just,
But anyway, the extra fee was for, I was hoping you were listening. I couldn't remember exactly how that went.
Are we talking about the sheriff's?
Yeah.
well, I'm talking about the 5251 under non-departmental that says, where is it? Non-departmental general fund, Burns Ford vehicle purchase.
So the sheriff's department had 50,000 budgeted in their capital outlay. The vehicle cost, I think, $5,000 more, like around 55,000. So we took the other 5,000 from the non-departmental capital outlay line.
And then where did the outfit or the upfit come from?
We haven't gotten the bill for that yet. So there's enough room in that non-departmental.
Okay, because I remembered, I think you had narrowed it down to just two line items instead of scattering it around, right?
Yeah, and we chose to do that because it was budgeted for capital outlay. And we had the room versus doing a resolution within the sheriff's department to reappropriate.
Thank you.
I think the part that probably threw me is you haven't billed or haven't paid for the actual upfit on it yet. And that number, when I last saw it, was lumped together, I think it was 20,000 or 17 or
That's
total.
kind of a lot.
Yeah, I think I have 12 in my head.
But that and then the additional cost of the vehicle was 17. And that's okay. That's what was throwing me on the.
Is the additional 17 going to be non-departmental or will it come out of sheriff's?
It's estimated about an additional 12 on top of that 5. Because upfit for law enforcement vehicles has gotten ridiculously crazy. My last ones were.
Well, I have it here, on the formerly LCAC, but LCHIP now, can you provide me, the county gets that money and then what that organization does, whether it's to pay someone to be their administrator, i.e. Kelly, or is that a lot of work for you to do that? Is it a problem area, sort of? I know that,
It's not a problem area.
or not problem area, but
Yeah.
I mean, we may, the judge had talked to me about, we may want it to go somewhere else, but I want it to be a good roles and missions. I mean, does it belong somewhere else or not? Are we actually just asking one of the entities of this collaborative body to do it? Should it be at the county or not? Those are the things that are on my mind. It's a minor thing, but just thought I'd ask you if it's a real pain.
My personal opinion is that it belongs somewhere.
Because
We kind of got it because one of the previous public health directors was like, oh, okay, we're gonna do this, and then they didn't want to commingle it with public health funds, so we created a special fund.
because it's not just a public health thing. It is a health thing that crosses all
But
the
that's how it kind of
entities.
came to us. So I asked the person who's managing that if it was a required county program. And the way I understood it is that I don't want to say any entity, but a different type of entity could manage it.
Okay. I just,
Are we talking like a CBO? Manage it or
So
there,
community-based organization handle it?
well,
I don't know the answer to that. I will say
let's not do nothing at the moment and we'll talk.
one of my concerns is that the money that's expended is for laundry vouchers. And so I have to go cash a check and give that individual cash.
The individuals that use the vouchers or the
The
admin?
individual that manages the fund.
Ah,
And then she goes and purchases the vouchers and brings me a receipt. And I don't like that process.
mm,
I feel like but there's no other way to purchase the
I see.
vouchers from wherever she's getting them.
I see. Seems
So
like
there's a
it seems like the entity that sells vouchers could write up an invoice for X number of vouchers. Right? Okay, more to come.
More to come.
Thank you so much.
We start.
10:30.
Dan's means. Do that? Yeah.
Hear a buzz and vibrate and everybody checks their phones.
It was the cream school. Your kid's not on the Washington DC trip, please. By the school that they're at.
Are they going to DC?
No, no, the eighth graders are.
Are they? Cool. My daughter went, when we lived in Nevada, it was fifth graders. I think.
Yeah, I think it's an awesome trip for
Yeah.
them.
I went. Bobby Joe and I chaperoned and went. It was cool.
Yeah, I think there was 30 of them going.
It's a pretty good group.
Yeah.
They going to the Smithsonian's and everything.
I don't know. I didn't ask about itinerary. I figured they'd walk their legs off.
By the time they're done in 3 or 4 days, they'll know how to use the metro very well.
Yeah, it's things they've never experienced.
DC's pretty easy to get around, really. Using the metro, driving is a different story.
There's reasons for public transportation.
Yeah. I spent so much time there, I felt like I lived there half time.
Did you, where'd you stay?
What's that?
Where did you stay when you were there?
Most of the time, well, it depended whether we were flying into Reagan or flying into Dulles,
Mhm.
but Reagan always stayed in Crystal City.
We live right near like on the high ground from Crystal City, Arlington Ridge Road. We live right near Al Gore's and Tipper's old house, you know, we bought the dog of the house, you know, that had gone to seed and get it, and it was a really great location.
A couple times I stayed down in, what is the old town?
Old Town Alexandria,
Alexandria.
that's nice.
That's where my cousin lives.
Yeah, that's really cool down there.
Definitely popular on St. Patrick's Day.
Excuse me?
It was very popular on St. Patrick's
Is
Day
it?
there, yeah. Just coming right up.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been waiting all year long for some good corned beef. and
I
cabbage.
gotta buy it today.
Good luck.
Oh,
Bobby Joe, when she
already
went-
gone?
Yeah. When Bobby Joe got hers this past weekend. It was the only one she could find.
Oh, okay, well,
Unless they got more in, hopefully.
I won't sweat it. Delay it.
I told her, I said, I didn't know there were that many Irishmen in town.
Burns is a Scottish community. It's 70 now, it's 70. Well, I think the thermostats are controlled by some people entity in the sky. Because we were talking about it downstairs as you said it, with your office. And then you go to the bathroom, come back and it's totally crazy different. And you like go down to the weed department and say, hey, you guys have this problem? They go, oh, yeah. Interesting.
Mine does. Mine does the same thing. It'll be hot and cold on the same setting.
And then if you have your door open at all, it never regulates.
But even when
Turns
it's shut, it's
terrible
the
when
same
it's
thing
open.
too, down there at least.
See how they spelled your name when you call them out.
Doesn't surprise me in today's world of spelling names. Have you ever seen how people spell their kids' names? Like, that is like 12 letters for a 4-letter name, you know? It's like, why do you do that?
That'll be for the predator.
Thank you for, I did not see that.
Information.
Different. Usually it's just I or Y. Now it's consonants too. Yes.
Yes.
Grab something.
All right, everybody, welcome to Harney County Court on March 15th, 2023. If you will all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There you go. All right, again, welcome everybody to County Court, 10:30 a.m. Wednesday. We've already taken care of voucher and bill paying. And next item up is agenda approval. I have a couple of added items to the agenda between item D and E. I want to add a quick HR benefits update by the HR specialist Atwell.
Any other,
What's that?
is that the
And
only?
one more. And then also item E, which would be item F now, but which I want to insert an item G, G. Since we have two of the members of the budget committee here today, it was my intent, and I know the other member, Terry Hellbush, is traveling back, I think, from vacation on unknown parts in South America today. But anyway, since we do have two members here, this year I wanted to make a formal appointment, even though their terms are still intact, but I just wanted to make an official appointment or reappointment of budget committee members. And so we'll just add that in there in between.
Okay.
And that's all I have for agenda.
Did you have anything, Commissioner Shulman?
I did not.
Well, with
Yes.
that, I would move to approve the agenda with the changes just mentioned.
I'll second.
And we have a motion to approve agenda items. And has been seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. And opposed? Hearing none, motion passes, carries. And next item is minutes approval from previous county court meeting on March 1st.
I would move to approve the Harney County Court meeting minutes of March 1st, 2023.
Second.
I have a motion to approve Harney County minutes from the March 1st, 2023 meeting, and has been seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. And opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. And that will bring us to opportunity for public comment. Is there anyone present that would like to address the court? All right, not seeing any and hearing any, we will move on then. First item up was under old business is NRAC committee appointments. And I believe this is just a clarification from the previous.
Yes, I got looking back over the terms and noticed that I'd been off a year. I was thinking of the Fair Board terms being 3 years. These are only 2-year terms. As I look back through it, I needed to adjust that to 2-year terms. So this is the correction to do that.
So then last time, we did do a motion on that last time,
Yeah,
didn't we?
but we adopted them as a 3-year term instead of a
Okay.
2. So this
So
is to correct.
A new motion then? To amend as indicated on the agenda?
Yeah, I make a motion to approve the corrected terms as presented.
I second.
And a motion has been made to accept the terms of appointment to the NREC as amended and annotated in the agenda. Has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. And then moving on to new business. First topic up is guidance for local assistance and tribal consistency fund. Treasurer Henry.
So in October of 2022, Harney County received the first of 2 local assistance and tribal consistency fund payments, also known as LATCF, maybe LATCF. In October, we received $2,272,500, and we receipted those funds into the jail reserve for the future justice center was the thought behind that. In looking back, there was never like a formal court conversation about that. So
There was never formal action in the minutes.
So I just feel like that needed addressed because I'm required to do some reporting by March 31st for that first segment of funds. And in looking over the reporting form, the choices are really broad, but I kind of was leaning towards capital expenditures for public safety. The other category it could possibly fall into would just be other capital expenditures if we don't want to label all of it public safety for the Justice Center. And I did, in the email, I sent you the guidance form, but if you go to page 3 of that, it has a list of examples for government purposes, pretty broad. It lists anything from health services, education, capital expenditures, infrastructure, long-term economic development, general government operations.
Yeah,
And so I just wanted to make sure the court was okay. In other words, with me reporting for capital expenditures for the first segment for that money we placed in jail reserve. And then the next payment we're expected to get sometime before the first payment this calendar year. So I don't know if it's going to come before the end of the fiscal year or not. And just opening it up for a discussion of where you want those funds to go. One thing I would ask the court to consider is there is an allowance for administering the program and the funds. So a portion of that could be used to supplement our general fund.
In administrative costs.
For administrative costs.
and I'm sure there will be quite a bit to those kind of
With the
capital.
reporting and.
Yeah.
So.
Once the project gets underway and bills are paid and everything, there'll be even more, won't there, from here?
And I assume that the funds that are held in the reserve would then be transferred to another fund
To be expended.
to be expended.
Okay. Do we need to generate a resolution for that,
I
or
don't,
just discussion good
Or
enough?
just
I
get,
think just a discussion among that we've received those individual reserve first payment for Justice Center expenses when ready to fly.
are you looking for guidance for the next iteration or
I will,
waiting?
well, when that second payment comes in, I'll reach out
Okay,
for guidance of
Okay.
where we want to receive that money.
great. I appreciate you bringing this to our attention to capture it in our official minutes.
Thank you, Treasurer Henry.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much.
Any further discussion on that topic?
Keep the money coming in.
Yes.
Good job.
We shall move along then. Next item up on new business is predator control update. And
So
Were
we
you
have
presenting?
Merle Reed here from the Interact to help with that presentation.
Right.
I'll fill in as needed.
Yeah, there's a handout that is handed out to all you commissioners and the secretary. The Interact committee is coming forward to the county court to ask for $10,000 again to help support the helicopter predator control and, looking at the statistics of the coyotes that have been killed this year, that's more important than ever with this extreme weather conditions that the ranchers are dealing with and the wildlife are dealing with. The coyotes are very hungry and very active around the cattle and livestock, and the Hornet Helicopter Company is stationed out of Gruzy, and it's a huge asset in many ways. We think for Harney County, and the $10,000 would help support them in covering more area in our county. And I think that's a huge benefit for the ranchers and the whole community as a whole. So we would ask, last year you guys were fortunate enough to give us $10,000, and it made a huge difference. And we feel that it would be, we're asking for $10,000 if possible to help support that again this year.
Is this a supplement basically to the predator control program in providing
Yes.
additional access
Yes,
to
so with the-
aviation
With the
services?
APHIS program, with the Wildlife Services Program, they are only allowed to use a fixed wing. And so their effectiveness and the ability to get that fixed wing here in Harney County with a pilot, with a gunner, is very difficult. And so even they have recommended that this service be prioritized over them calling in fixed wing services to do the same efforts. In fact, when they did call in fixed wing services, the feedback from folks, they had to get a pilot from out of state. They had to get a gunner from out of state. It was very ineffective, not a good use of services, time or money to do that. And so the helicopter services, it's about 90% more effective than a fixed wing service for the same type of control. And so this does equate to a much better use of funds than having Wildlife Services bill us for fixed wing services for the same activities.
So prior to taking office, but last year, I believe when this discussion came up and the first $10,000 were allocated for this or appropriated for this purpose. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that was a kind of an initial stopgap just to help getting funding going. Is that correct?
So some of those funds came from the ARPA funds to build back up the predator control fund, because during the budget cuts, that fund was stripped. And so it was not being put into the budget. And so where it hadn't been built into the budget, we used the ARPA funds to build that budget back up, because with your APHIS, you have to have county match money with the state match money. And so $120,000 was put into that to help build that program back up. But also the conversation was around supporting local efforts too, because we know that one person in Harney County as a wildlife services agent can't provide enough services for a county of this size.
Is there any way that the APHIS contract, is that renewed annually? Is that an annual?
We
thing?
just received it, but the governor stripped the budget for ODA and ODF and W by 88%. Right now,
I guess my question
legislatively,
is, do we need fixed wing support at all? And can we renegotiate what APHIS provides without that? And then
That was kind of.
yeah,
pay
this,
less and then pay more to
Do we
things
have
that
two, do we have two programs going on for predator control?
yeah, you have wildlife services and what they offer, and then this is a local private entity. And so the discussion that the NRACs had and brought to the court previous was that there is a necessity for both because of the things that each can offer. This is so Representative Owens, I reached out to him after we got that email yesterday, and they were looking at the ODA's budget in the legislative session yesterday. He was going to bring up the fact that 88% is way too much to strip those agencies to provide the services, because then it comes back down to the counties for a huge hit financially. he's going to continue to work on that. He said it's not the first time this has happened and that the legislatures had to push back and backfill those agencies. And so this will not be the final amount, but
So-
it's going to be whittled on once the agency's budgets are made whole in the legislative process.
So I did look at the budget from last year and what was appropriated for this last year, and it was 95,000. And it's 80,000 this year. How does that affect, I guess, the
See,
bottom line?
That's where the history of it, previous to that, it was a much smaller, it was more like a $45,000 contribution from the counties because the state brought more to the table and so did the feds. With the state cutting their budget, that limits the amount of federal dollars that can also go towards this program. And so until the state budgets contribute more to it, then the county's contribution goes up astronomically.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So
And their admin is like 26% of their budget. And
so
what they
this
get
year's
from us goes
budget
to
request
admin.
is $15,000 less than it was last year.
Yeah, because we had not been a part of it previous. We were not in that original pool that got to divide up the cost sharing program. Because by the time we submitted a desire to them to get services, they had already divvied up that original pool of money. And so we had to pay more last time because we were not in that original allocation.
Okay, so I guess what I'm asking bottom line though, on the wildlife services portion of it, is this gonna remain our proposed contribution for budget purposes, 80,000? Or are these efforts going to come back with a new sheet that's?
They're going
90?
to come back with a new sheet, but it wouldn't be 95,000. 95,000 is assuming there's no state contribution, no federal contribution, because that's what we had to pay when we were not part of that original pool that gets to take part in that cost sharing. I think by assumption, knowing that if these agencies' budgets are stripped, this would be a potential that we would need to budget for. They say at the legislative level, they're hoping to get the county contribution down. But until that happens, that is our current amount that we're being proposed
Okay,
for that.
so that's, I guess that was my question. This, right now, the proposed contribution is 80,000.
The proposed service contract, yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
It'll be that much or less depending on what negotiations and
Correct.
legislation comes out with. And then the 10,000 for request for
Well,
helicopter
just
services.
to give a little backstory, so to provide these services, this company has to work with ODA for permits for everywhere where they fly. And so they do work with the state agency because they have to get permits for everywhere where they go and provide these services. And so it takes a lot of legwork with this company working with the state just to be able to go provide the services they provide. It's not just a go and do. They have to go through a lot of hoops and work with
So as I recall
ODA
too,
to do these.
from the discussions last year, these services are basically contracted from the landowners, so they pay.
They are. But
Quite a bit
so
of it.
each of these landowners that they get permits for are making a contribution. But they aren't charging them what it would actually cost, or else nobody could participate. And so the
Last-
county helps in this manner with it.
Yeah, last year, there were 76 blocks that were paid by the local ranchers. Okay, and in 2022, this year, in 2023, there was 89 blocks paid by the local ranchers. So the ranchers are very much so supporting this, and this is just to offset where this extra 10,000 is when they're traveling from, say, the Opie's ranch, and they happen to see coyotes. They have the fuel or the extra money to be able to take care of extra coyotes on top of what is allotted or what. is
Targets of
allotted.
opportunity, etc.
Yeah.
Right. Just with the increase in fuel costs too, if they were, like I say, to charge these folks what it actually costs them to run
And
nobody would be able to afford it.
so I understand all that. And what is the Lane County intergovernmental agreement all about?
That's another topic.
I don't.
Okay.
item
Oh, I
C.
see.
That's
Okay.
item C.
All right, I was gonna say.
I'm in support of supporting this project and this fund, and it all goes towards our agriculture industry in Harney County.
And our overall economy.
My question is where we draw the funds from. I'm reluctant to continue to draw chunks of money like this from the ARPA funds,
I would agree with that.
but it
Let's
just
find
ends
a-
up drawing it down, and
No,
then
it
after
needs-
time, we don't have anything. I mean, there's tangible results
Let me
in
give
this,
you a
but it
little
doesn't.
more backstory on some of the conversation the courts previously had. So some of the funds with the Taylor grazing, we had discussed that 20,000 of them would be put into the predator control fund. And 10,000 of that 20 would cover this. The other 10,000 would go towards the wildlife services contract, acknowledging that those rangelands are range that's being serviced by predator control services.
And that was our balance at the end after we had supported those other projects that were put forward. Is that right? The
Well,
20,000?
there's a transfer line from that fund into predator control.
Yeah, but I mean, in that balance, in that fund,
Right.
that
right.
20,000 was the
The 85
balance.
versus 65. Mhm.
Yeah, that's true. And I like that. I can see this as being a need to plan for, and therefore that's why I don't want it to be an ARPA drawdown.
No, it needs to be
And I
in the
like,
fund, in the
Yeah, we need to-
budgetary process,
yes.
it needs to be included.
and I like the source of those funds coming from the Taylor grazing
Right.
funds. That's
No, and
good
that's
use of
something the
those.
county's never done until we had that discussion.
Okay. So, do we need a motion for,
Yes, I make a motion to pay Hornet Helicopter Predatory Control Services $10,000
And that
For-
is for this
for
right
the-
now.
for
and-
2023
Okay.
to be paid out right away as they are providing the services currently.
And is this a time of year each year that they would need to be paid generally?
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
when they're
this
most
is like-
active.
this is where
Want
they-
to make sure that's clarified.
They've been very busy.
I would second.
of a motion, to budget $10,000 for payout this fiscal year though, right?
Out of the private.
Out of the, current funds, Hornet Helicopter Predator Control for $10,000. And, so, okay, so that'll be out of current FY 2022-23 funds.
Mhm.
And then do we need to look at then, just for conversation, do we need to look at making that for next year as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As
we'll
you
build
propose the
it into
budget, think about
As you
how
build
to do
that
that.
line, make sure that that transfer is occurring from the other.
Okay, another discussion though. So anyway, so I have a motion and seconded to pay a Hornet Helicopter for Predator Control $10,000 in the current fiscal year. Motion's been made and seconded. Do we have any further discussion?
I just want to compliment Mr. Reed on providing us information so we could feel comfortable making a decision.
No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you. On a side note, I know, probably shouldn't do the public comment, but, the other day in our business of the Pine Room, we had, 19 people come in that had participated in the Coyote Derby. There were 2 people that participated in it. They had so much fun in Harney County that they brought a lot of their supervisors, and they came in on Friday night and they'd already had dinner. But they had hotel rooms and they were just kind of shooting coyotes or rabbits or whatever. Then they had a large bar bill, but or they had a lot of fun, but then they came in Saturday night. But I'll just say that that's just a direct reflection of how important the Coyote Derby is to our economic, I mean, in just our business, for 2 nights business, Friday night, Saturday night, but then the local hotels or whatever, so that's, one thing that I know that we always fight with, the resistance of it, but economically, that was a good showing of them coming in. They were from Albany, Salem, and all that, and a great bunch of people too. So
I know that-
thank you very much for the support on the predator control.
Well,
Thank you.
and just by note, this kind of does fit under predator control updates as well. The NRAC worked on a legislative concept with Oregon Hunters Association. It's LC 4387. It's in its final draft, we're hoping, after a couple different renditions. And so I'll provide that to the court as well. I just got that email this morning. And the NRAC now has it to look over to provide any feedback, and then we can get back to Representative Owens. It is a priority bill of his. Just to give a kind of a highlight of what it does is it looks at our numbers for our wildlife management units and looks at whether they're below 50% of their management objectives or not, and populations that don't, like bighorn sheep and that, they don't have management objectives. And so looking at their 3-year average of populations, trying to acknowledge the fact that those populations are being depleted and that they need extra support to get out of that depletion mode. And so it's asking for additional funding to ODF and W to help with the predator pit that these populations are in. And so that will be being heard in the legislative session in Representative Owens' committee once we get this final draft back. But that was a lot of hard work from the NRAC to help get it to this stage and work on that. Really like to thank them for their efforts.
That's a positive development. I hope it can go the distance. There's just so much misunderstanding of the predator situation out here. The people, they just think nice little animals, you're killing the animals. And it's just so frustrating for them not to understand the ecosystem out here, including coyotes and others, and how it really works, and that overpopulation is not good.
I make a comment, that we've been addressing it out, with the ranchers. Well, on YouTube, there's a video of right in a residential area, a coyote dragging off. The father had taken him out of the car or was putting the baby in the car, one or the other, and the coyote was dragging it off. And the father had to throw rocks at it. That was the only thing he had, get it away. So it happens, it's happening everywhere. If they become hungry, they'll go for anything. And it's important that we control that.
Right, and this is hopefully a tool that we can provide statewide. This is not Harney County specific. We happen to fall into this category, but we're hoping to build in a statewide tool for folks to be able to use to address problems statewide through this legislation.
Any further discussion on the predator control update topic?
I'll give an update to the court once we hear back from Representative Owens as far as the potential budgetary needs for wildlife services.
All right, then moving on, the next item on the agenda is a Lane County intergovernmental agreement. And are you standing in for Jesse?
I am.
Okay. This just a brief summary is basically an agreement for us to provide food service worker certifications. Is that
Food handlers cards.
food handler?
Yeah.
There you go. Go ahead, please, Mr. McMullen.
Sure. Well, I am, and before I get going, I just learned that the coolest job in the world is shooting predators at a middle lake. That sounds a little bit different than what I do today. So I learned something new. I am standing in for Jesse, who is heading up our health inspections and environmental health program for the county. And part of that is the issuing of food handlers cards. This was previously an arrangement, this Lane County IGA, it was previously an arrangement with Grant County, who before we took over, ran the health program. And so we now take that responsibility on. It's my understanding through this IGA that what we're agreeing to is having the, basically the service, all of the infrastructure and the costs associated with taking a food handler's card online, inventorying and all that stuff, handing that to Lane County. And then we provide a link to Lane County's website for that, to take that service. And then provide some local assistance. And so we capture a portion of the fee that's associated with the food handler's card, and that number is included in here as a projection. And that's about it.
So previously, though, anybody in Harney County that needed to go through this process to get a food handler's card was having to go to Grant County. And Grant County was capturing that small, whatever it might be negligible, but still they were capturing that revenue versus us capturing it.
Correct.
Okay, so I put this on the agenda just for a quick review, just so you know, because it has a signature for myself. It doesn't require the court's full signature on it, but I just wanted it as a
Thank
matter
you.
of record and what we were entering into potentially. And I have run it through county council. County council said he didn't see any problems with it.
Sounds good.
So
Thank you.
anyway, just for everybody's information. Thank you, sir.
Brandon.
Now you can go shovel the snow off your flat roof.
Yeah,
Let's go find a helicopter.
that's what I was gonna do. Call up Merle and be like, all right.
Next item on the agenda is resolution supporting the High Desert Park and Recreation to apply for local government grants for from the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department. I think we got all that right. I want to let you know, Brandy, the resolution that you sent to me, I did rework it so that it was in our kind of more in our format and whatnot.
Okay.
Okay.
And you
so
have
it's-
spots on there for you guys to sign?
Yep, yep.
Okay, do you
So-
want me to read it or are you gonna read it?
Either or, you can just give background and
On what's going on?
what the project is, what you're looking at doing and whatnot, and then we can move on to the resolution, formalizing it.
Alrighty, so just some plans that have been worked up and started, these are not finalized or finished. For Warner, I kind of put Warner on a time crunch. So in the middle of March, I found out and got reached out to by a couple different people and actually found out that High Desert Park and Recreation has a chance at a local government grant program. Right now, that is with only a 20% match. That's amazing. Most matches are 50. So you guys all know I'm gonna start working on phase 2 of the pool house renovation. There's 5 different phases. So we got the solar panels done. You guys helped put money towards last year. Those are in, they're working, they work amazing. They almost overwork and I have to shut them off at 11, or they overheat my pool and then it gets cloudy.
Do they work through the winter? Is it
No,
not?
Pool's not open.
the pool's not open.
No,
so-
but I was just wondering, do you keep water in it during the off season or is it drained?
Oh, no, I drain it.
It's drained.
The pool itself has to hold water, but I drain the solar panels.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. The pool
Okay.
has water in it, so
Mhm.
I didn't know if you kept that circulating over.
No, it just has to sit there. You can't circulate anything. It'll break everything. So right now, this means we can currently put in for a requested $460,000 based upon the $93,000 we have saved from the grant match. That 93,000 is part of the 120,000 that I got from this. So with that, I'm moving forward. That's what I'm putting in with. And to be able to do that, I've had to go to the cities, my board, and county commissioners and county judge asking you guys sign a resolution to be able to put in for this grant. This grant is due April 1st. Right? With that, I'm sure you guys probably seen it on there. We're gonna gut it. We're gonna completely rehab it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that building. It just needs insulated and a heating source put in so that we're not doing such a hard shutdown, right? Well, on the side of the building, as you walk up to it on the left, we have just like a little square area. I'm gonna build an office right there. So I'm not paying rent. I can actually be down there and supervise the pool properly as it needs to be done.
Do you think the utility cost of operating an office out of there would actually be pretty expensive in the winters or
I
not?
think it's probably gonna even out. Right now, I'm paying $450 just to rent a space. I have to pay electric on top of that. If I can just move all that down to the pool, honestly, I think it's all going to budget and even out. At this point, if we start putting in, and this is my goal too, is if I can get enough money, I'm going to put in a new shower boiler. If we can start updating and putting that stuff in there, that's really going to lower a lot of our costs too, because right now we're running off stuff from the 70s. And it's that one's electric. I'm going to be putting in a gas one. So, again, trying to lower our carbon footprint also, but using the solar panels has already decreased our prices definitely immensely too. So,
Do you keep the pool house heated at this time of year?
no, there is no way to heat it. There's no insulation. There's no nothing. We're going to furrow the whole building and put insulation. We're going to redo all the plumbing that's broken and all patched together. Up in the attic, we're going to redo that, and we're going to spray insulate it and then put a heating source in.
What kind of heating cooling system are you looking at putting in? Split units like this or something possibly?
A split unit like this for the office, but not in
Okay.
there. We're probably going to have to put some form of furnace or something.
So my
It's-
point being, in the winter time, you can heat just the office.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we're still looking, we'd probably still heat a little bit. I mean, we put it on the lowest setting. Just because what's happening right now is we're having such a hard shutdown. All of our fixtures in there are taking a toll because we don't antifreeze down everything. It ruins everything. And then the cost of startup every single year, because I have to replace those fixtures, is ridiculous. I mean, it's just eroding our entire system anyways. And so we literally have to stop.
Good. Good movement forward, really. Pool's been there for a long time and it desperately needs some help.
Yes, so some beautification too, I think would be the top priority down there too. It's starting to show its age for sure. The metal roof on top of it though is in amazing shape. And so that's one thing we really don't have to worry about right now.
So the resolution then is just in support, again, as the agenda item states, it's just a local grant, support for you to apply for local grants.
Basically, so that's, I'll read kind of what was on mine that they had sent me to use just.
Well, the only thing that I kind of went over this with the clerk,
Mhm.
and the only thing that I really changed was the floor mat. And then the sections 1 and 2 at the bottom.
Mhm.
I mean, it goes into effect as soon as we sign it, so that
Mhm.
that statement really didn't need to be there at the bottom. So that's the only thing I changed in it.
Okay. And basically, what it's stating in here is that we have the funds to match it. That it leaves us in ongoing operations of it. We're not releasing any of it to anybody else kind of situation. And what we're doing, we're explaining that we are completely rehabilitating, we're building an office onto it. To do that, we are putting in an outdoor accessible restroom, meeting ADA requirements. We are also putting in to meet kind of this new thing that they're wanting people to do is like an urban upgrade, not just ADA, but we need to make ourselves accessible to all disabilities, not just ADA disabilities. And so we're going to meet requirements that way. That's one of the great big pushes for this grant. And so we get points that way also for this grant, because it's based upon a point system. And so after that, it just also says a high desert park and recreation will provide adequate funding for ongoing operations and maintenance of the park and recreation facility. Should the grants be funded.
So when you mentioned points, this is a competitive grant.
This is a competitive grant through, it's only awarded to park and recreation districts. So I'm competing with other park and recreation districts in Oregon, but it's only here in Oregon. I have called the grantoree. I've talked to him several times. He's kind of on our page. He knows what's coming. So when he sees my grant come across, he knows my name. He knows how to do a recreation name. He knows what's going on. And he can easily go through and find all of our stuff and present it because he's the one that presents it. Depending on the amount and how much we're getting granted, kind of where other people step up. But if we're one of the higher ones, they'll ask me to come do a presentation up there also.
Just a comment, sounds really good. Because I hear things of, public safety, low-level crime, vandalism, various things, so whatever security considerations you have, once it is a well-insulated facility, it may become a place that people who don't have a home, don't have shelter, start gravitating toward bathrooms that are easily accessible, become used a lot, and we care that people get what they need, but also it can be a big cost if that kind of stuff happens. So just keep that in mind.
They're gonna be locked. They're gonna be
Just keep it in mind.
accessible to park users.
We've had stuff in fairgrounds happen.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about too. Plus, it's attached to my office, and so I'm like, no.
Who's your insurance through?
SDAO, so all of our stuff goes through our special districts.
Okay.
We have special districts insurance.
Okay.
My person though is through BizNet in Johnny.
All right, there's not that much to it. I'm gonna go ahead and read the resolution in its entirety. And I'll entertain a motion. And the county court for the state of Oregon for the county of Harney in the matter of supporting the High Desert Park and Recreation to apply for a local government grant from the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department. Resolution number 2023-09. The Harney County Court hereby resolves as follows. Whereas the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department is accepting applications for the local government grant program, and whereas the High Desert Park and Recreation desires to participate in this grant program to the greatest extent possible as means of providing needed park and recreation acquisitions, improvements, and enhancements. And whereas the Harney County Court has identified pool bathhouse office build improvements at Anderson Park as a high priority need in Burns, Oregon. And whereas this project will be a complete rehabilitation of existing bath shower house with an additional build of an office and outdoor accessible restroom, meeting ADA requirements at Anderson Park, Burns, Oregon. And whereas the High Desert Park and Recreation has available local matching funds to fulfill its share of obligation related to this grant application, should the grant funds be awarded. And whereas the High Desert Park and Recreation will provide adequate funding for ongoing operations and maintenance of this park and recreation facility should the grant funds be awarded. Now, therefore, it is hereby resolved that the Harney County Court demonstrates its support for the submittal of a grant application to the Oregon Park and Recreation Department for rehabilitation of the pool bathhouse / office building at Anderson Park, dated this 15th day of March 2023.
I move to approve resolution number 2023-09, just read in the matter of supporting the High Desert Park and Recreation to apply for local government grant from the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department.
A motion has been made and seconded to support for resolution 2023-09 in the matter of supporting the High Desert Park and Recreation to apply for local government grants from the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department. Any further discussion? I did have one question I thought of. When are you looking at starting on this? Maybe you said it, I missed it.
Well, so they're not gonna let anybody know till October or November whether they get the grants.
Okay.
At that point, right now, I'm hoping to have Rise and Run on the docket to do it. I went down there with Bruce and showed him everything that needs to be done, especially considering he specializes in concrete and that concrete flooring that needs redone. But hopefully, as soon as I get that awarded grant money, because it's all like a refunded process, so you have to do so much work and then they refund you the money kind of situation. We can work throughout the winter to get
Okay.
most of it done.
So not this season, but next season.
Hopefully next season, we will see this.
Great. Any further discussion?
Good job.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed. Hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you for presenting.
Yes. It's been quite the grant, let me tell you, you know, maps that you
bet.
gotta make and put in. That's pretty neat though. It's really, really open. Do you need a copy of this made? Do I need to go out there and make a copy of it?
Well, I was gonna say, the clerk will record it.
Okay.
And after he records it, then I can get you a copy if that's okay.
Okay, just as long as I have it before I go first.
So yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Next day or two, you should have it.
that's good.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, moving along then. Yeah, I do have HR in between there, but I have members of the committee, budget committee and whatnot. I think we'll do that real quick, because all it is a quick statement, really. So I'm gonna skip to item, which would be item EF would be G or A, B, C, D, G, F, F. Yes. Item F, appointment of elected officials compensation board. Carrie Boggs, Hilda Allison, and Dan Jordan. And so you guys can get back to your lives if we get this taken care of. This is nothing more than I appreciate your personal appearance, and I believe, Carrie, are you online? Are you on?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm online. I hear you.
Okay. Okay, so basically, I just kind of wanted to basically have you the ability to introduce yourselves, and then, you know, we appreciate your willingness to volunteer and serve in this role. But just as a matter of record, as who's serving in these roles, and ladies first.
Yes, my name is Hilda Allison. I'm a resident of Hines and our community, and I offered my services in any capacity that I could to the county, and I appreciate them placing me on this committee.
Thank you. Mr. Jordan.
I volunteer. If you want to do it. I'm not really a volunteer. I'll accept it, or if you want me.
Well, no, we appreciate your time and everything. I had, you had expressed interest in an email originally to volunteer, because that's my
Yes.
understanding.
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Boggs.
Do you see me on video?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, my name's Kerry Boggs. I own Harney County Sporting Goods, and I'm a resident of Burns. Have been for some time. I grew up here, went to school here, and then left and came back. I'm looking forward to getting back into the political ring a little bit, and this is a good place to start, I think. So I appreciate you giving me the chance to do this.
You bet. And I believe you also participate on the Wolf Committee. So we thank you for your your participation and volunteering in other roles as well. So that's all I really had for that. Oops. Okay.
Do we need to make a motion on that though? for
Well,
Official,
I don't know if we do. I just wanted it to be a
we
matter of
always have in
record.
the past. We've
Yeah.
Done it as an official motion.
A motion, okay.
I move to appoint Carrie Boggs, Hilda Allison, and Dan Jordan to the Harney County Elected Official Compensation Board.
I second.
Have a motion has been made to appoint Hilda Allison, Dan Jordan, and Carrie Boggs to the Elected Official Compensation Board. And it's been seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I will be in touch. The first,
Advise us.
yeah, the first budget committee meeting is scheduled, I have tentative schedule for the 4th of April. And what you can expect at that time then is once the full committee meets, and that date might change a little bit because I don't remember what of the committee's availability was at this point. I'll have a package for the elected officials committee, basically with the statute and kind of, you know, where to start and go with it from there.
Do we meet with the budget committee then?
No,
No,
you present your findings to the budget committee.
the way I believe it works is you meet a couple of times at least, maybe just 2 is all you need, whatever. And I would like to see our HR director be the one to be the support to you with providing you comparisons and stuff of other elected officials and whatnot. But then you guys convene and you meet, you talk about it, and then any recommendations you have for any changes in the compensation of the local elected officials, then I would say probably a memo would be in order to just, and then that would go to the budget committee for consideration. That's kind of how it works.
Established pattern already, I mean, it's established on how to come to what do
Well,
we
there-
recommend?
There is a state statute requiring the county to have an elected official's compensation.
We follow a certain pattern, I mean, like comparison.
I did quite a bit of work a few years ago to figure out a way to provide you, but you can also ask for additional stuff and we can dig that up for you. But what in the past, the committees, what I've heard that they wanted to see what other comparable elected officials in other counties, they selected which ones they thought were most like for comparisons for them to think about. And each, as you know, each county is different. So sometimes some counties have half-time commissioners and some have full-time. And so, you use your judgment. And what had happened is by statute, we're supposed to convene this every single year. There had been about an 8 or 9 year period between 2012 and later where it hadn't been convened. So in all that period of time, the elected official compensations had not increased here at all. So when they were.
Yeah. Got the COLAs. Time the
COLAs,
rest of the
okay.
people got, increases, the elected officials got the COLAs.
It had not been looked at for the basis, not the COLA.
Yes.
And so that year when they met, when we finally realized we're supposed to be convening this every year, let's convene it, and let them, they might say no change. They might say, we recommend you increase a little bit or not. So anyway, that year there were some changes, I think more or less to sort of catch up a bit. And then, it might be that there's very little recommendation you have. I don't know. It's up
Just
to you
more
guys.
Recommendations how to establish what we're looking at or the answers we come up with, not in a strict
I think it's
pattern.
supposed to be an objective third-party review that presents and provides a recommendation. Change, no change, status quo, whatever. As a recommendation to the budget committee to then make a decision on. In that package that I was going to give to you, I'm going to kind of put together some of that, again, you meet on your own, the three of you meet on your own outside of the budget committee and do your own research. And then come up
They
with a
used to use
recommendation.
this room to be, you can get scheduled to use the courthouse to do your meeting, and then Miss Atwell's right next door in case she could help you in any way. Yeah,
The sooner you report to the budget committee, the better budget we can have. Because we can put the numbers in instead of having to wait until May to put the numbers.
But so like I said, our first initial budget committee meeting is going to be that first week of April. And at that time, that's when I'll give you a packet and then you guys will do your part of it.
You'll notify us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
thank you.
Also, as another part of that, again, it's not required, but just as just public transparency, our existing budget committee is comprised of Polly Smith and Rick Ball and Terry Hellbush. And while they serve on specific terms, which I believe Ms. Hellbush's is up this year, needs to be reappointed actually, and she's not here. I think she's traveling back again from her vacation. But since you're both here, I added that part of it into the agenda today, that we can do the same thing with you two today, and then Terry's in town next week, maybe the 4th of the. I think the next county court is April 5th. Yeah, April 5th. So we can take care of that one at the time. But since you're here, we can take care of that one today. And then
So did you say their terms are up or only?
only Terry's.
Only Terry's?
Yeah. But it's more of just kind of like just a public
To record it in the
acknowledgement.
meeting.
Yeah.
And
Just a
just
public
as point of
acknowledgement.
clarification, the budget committee in its entirety consists of these 3 citizen members and the 3
court.
county court members. The 6 of us are the budget committee. But we don't have to be reappointed to it.
Yeah.
So
So anyway, just to do that real quick, Lynn, also just a quick motion to acknowledge I guess it's not an appointment or a reappointment, it's just
It would
acknowledgement.
even be a motion and except for Terry's position.
Okay.
Terry would be the only one that you'd make.
Okay, so then just for a matter of record, then on the agenda, that recognize them as continuing.
As
on.
members of the budget.
Okay. So that takes care of, then would be item G, and we'll move back then to. Where are the grants? Oh, HR. HR benefits update.
Yay. So we had our conference last month and the
Thank you.
CIS has put out not to exceed rates. So our rates won't be any higher than this. They have not set the rates yet. So I think it's May when they'll actually, when they'll actually set the final rates, but these are not to exceed. So they've suggested that property and auto physical damage insurance, 23% increase. I know. Law enforcement rates per sworn office and jail beds, 15%. Employment practices and liability rates, 5%, overall average 9%. So they're suggesting 23% increase. And then again, we'll find out our final rates in May-ish. But for budgeting purposes,
Do they always come out in May or do they ever come out earlier?
it would be pretty close to May if it comes out earlier. It'll be theirs. But at least we know it's not gonna be any higher. So good news on the other side a little bit is the life insurance rates are not increasing. Supplemental life insurances aren't increasing. The net life plans, which is the trauma plans, the accident plans, critical care plans, are not increasing. However, medical is increasing 5% and vision 9%. I've never seen them be different. It's always been, because they're connected, it's always been the same, that their Regents is 5% increase and VSP is 9% increase. Dental is staying the same, so that's a good thing. The thing that is going away from January 1 is short-term disability. So due to Oregon paid leave, they're getting rid of the short-term disability policy. And it'll all go to Oregon paid leave. They're transitioning to that anyway.
From a financial point of view, is that about the same? Or
Well,
I guess it just depends on who takes it, right?
Right. Well, and it's all on the employee. I mean, the employee pays short-term disability. The county doesn't pay it, but
Thank you.
anyway, I just wanted to also say PERS rates are also increasing. This is not a final rate either. They come out later in the year as well, before budgeting, obviously, before July, they will come out, but tier 1, tier 2, increasing 0.23%. General officer, 1.55%, and officer and tier 1 police and fire, 1.98%, which is significantly lower than it has been, because they've been jumping quite significantly up to now. So a little bit of an increase. I think they'll definitely benefit.
Appreciate hearing that.
That's all.
Thank you very much. And that brings us to Oregon Outback International Dark Skies Sanctuary presentation from Dawn Nelson.
So you all have these things?
They were in the packet.
We have them online. in front of us.
Julie? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for taking your time to be here formally, because we've been online for the last 2 years with COVID, hosting meetings for the public, hosting stakeholder workshops. But we really haven't been here. And so, now the opportunity is to be here before the county. The name of the group is the Oregon Outback Dark Sky Network. This is an ad hoc group. There's 501c3. It's really just saying
that the community of land managers and chambers of commerce and officials and all the people who have just supported the project. I'm a member of Rose City Astronomers. It's the second largest astronomy club in the nation. They're, not here, but we work all through the state to, promote astronomy and so forth. So everybody's kind of on board with this, and that's what the network is. The network is really just everybody who's on board. So it's not any formal group. The group that is the formal group is the International Dark Sky Association, and that is a nonprofit group. And their only mission is to protect a natural night sky. And it was started over 30 years ago by a group of astronomers. And it has grown across a group of people who include artists and writers and people who want to, conserve wildlife. It has included the people from the American Medical Association, because we found that this artificial light at night also disrupts human circadian rhythms. So it's become a much greater group than just a bunch of astronomy geeks. And the organization has grown, and it's really truly worldwide. And this organization puts together a program that they started over 20 years ago called the International Dark Sky Places. And there's several different kinds of places. There's dark sky parks, communities, reserves, sanctuaries, and urban night sky places. And it's really a program just to promote awareness of the importance of a natural night sky, and to really, by certifying these places, and they don't go out and say, we want this place, we want this place. A group of people within the community say, see us, see what we're doing, see how dark we are, see the kinds of policies that we have that keep it dark, and acknowledge us. And that helps create a public awareness within the community and outside of the community for other people to do likewise. And I just wanted to point out this word dark sky. It's a lot of people get upset that this means everybody has to turn out lights, and it's dark sky, not dark brown. So it's really just about lighting what you need, directing light downward to where it's needed, when it's needed, and as much as needed, and not up into the sky. And if you look inside the packet, and I'm just going to skip over, if you look, it looks like something happened with the printer, because you just see this big black blob. This big black blob. This is a satellite. This is from satellite data, from satellites that fly over. And the little yellow areas here, or where you see a pinpoint, this is the light source that comes out of southeastern Oregon. So it is just inky dark. And it's a lived-in landscape. Sure, it's a lot of public land, but it's a lived-in landscape. There's commercial businesses, there's ranching businesses, there's private residents, and it's this dark. And it's this dark because you have been doing things right. So nobody's saying you're doing something wrong, you need to fix it. People have been doing something right. So a lot of people get say, well, is it going to mean if we're seeking this nomination for a sanctuary, does this mean I can't do what I've always been doing? Look what people have been doing, and look how dark it is. It's because nobody really puts a light on for decoration that they don't need, except for the holidays. It's not, people don't light up their house to see my house, see my house. There's no vanity light. It's not what it's about, so it's not like the big cities that most of the lights where you can't see a single star because people light up their homes for vanity, or they are afraid of their neighbor. People are just even afraid of their neighbors, so they light things up. It's dark, and the whole reason that the network is gathered together is to keep it this way, and to ideally reverse the trend of what's happening worldwide. And if you just look at the United States here we start in the 50s, and you can see how black the United States is, and then look at what's happening year by year by year. All these colors here is where the sky is being washed out. So you may take it for granted living here, and you can go out any clear night and see stars. But for over 80% of the population, they can't see the Milky Way from their homes. And so if you also look at this map, you will see that there is this big
black blob right here in southeastern Oregon that extends into Idaho, that extends into Nevada. And it is the largest pristine dark sky zone in the lower 48 states. And so we just want to keep it that way. And that's all there is to it. We just want to keep it that way. And guess what? By keeping it that way, when these kinds of places get certified, what they found is an economic boost to the communities. And so you can kind of consider it a form of sustainable ecotourism, because where people might come and drive through, now they hear that, oh, there's these magnificent skies that I can see that I won't see anywhere else in the lower 48, you know, in this much of in this kind of vastness, and they'll stay overnight. And every time people stay overnight, they spend 3 times as much. And so this was a study done on the Colorado Plateau, where they have a lot of these international dark sky places, because they also have a lot of national parks. And national parks and state parks are most of the designated places, but they're also designated communities, small communities mostly. So what from 5 years ago, there were about 100 of these places. 5 years later, they're over 200 now, slightly over 200. And the reason is because rural communities have found this economic boost, this sustainable economic boost. And because of that, our regional and state tourism agencies have gotten involved. So Travel Oregon and Eastern Oregon Visitor Association, Travel Southern Oregon, they've got involved with this. They've got grant money to help bring something like this to fruition, because it is a really nice, viable economic boost to the community. And there's really no disadvantage to doing so. So a lot of the people, most of the things we hear that are adverse to such an idea is really just misinformation or just a misunderstanding of what we're trying to do. So I would just say to the commissioners, especially, it's dark sky, not dark brown, to just always remember that if people say anything. No one is telling anybody to turn out their lights. But the risk right now, and you'll see in the picture, is that even here in this area where people have been doing a great job with how they manage their lights and only use lights when needed and where needed, it's shrinking because of neighboring communities that aren't doing the same. And that creates a risk to this area here. And so having such a certification not only enlightens people within the area that we put boundaries around, this is a proposed boundary. And those boundaries, by the way, are there based on all the input that we've had through all the citizen outreach that we've had of what the boundaries would be, what should be included, what not included. So it's all been done through this whole grassroots effort. It's nobody drumming a stack of rules down. The people outside of the area that we're looking to certify will also now be aware. And so when you get places like Boise, that's now squished between Central Idaho Dark Sky Reserve, and it would be squished between a dark sky sanctuary, it kind of speaks to them. And we've done outreach. We've done some outreach programming in Boise, in Ontario, to say, Treasure Valley, your lights are bleeding into this, one of the nation's darkest places. So they can do something about it. And so that's really what this is about. And I kind of summarized it, but you can see the boundaries. The boundaries primarily follow public land boundaries to just really capture as most of the public land as we can in here, to just have natural boundaries so that if people come to the area, they know that's the sanctuary, that's not the sanctuary. But the reality is even outside the sanctuary boundaries, it's still dark. We just try to get it to be, oh, if you're east of 395, or if you're south of 20, you're, or you're, then you're in a sanctuary. And it's not extended into Nevada and Idaho, which logically it can, because we're all under one sky. Just because, like I said, the state and regional tourism offices have gotten engaged, and they want Oregon to have an opportunity to get a slice of some of this economic benefit that's been coming out of these programs. Idaho already has their dark sky place. Nevada has 2 dark sky places. Massacre Rim is a dark sky sanctuary of about 102,000 acres that is just south the Oregon border here, just, actually, I think it's just south of the Lake County border in Nevada, near Sheldon Park area. What else did I want to say? So this whole thing of light pollution, if you've heard that term, it's just really light going where it doesn't need to go. So if light's going up into the sky, we don't need to ward off any kind of aliens coming down. So we don't need to put light up into the sky. And if it goes up to the sky, it's just considered pollution because it's wasteful. If it's going into your neighbor's bedroom window, it's pollution because it's not meant to go into your neighbor's bedroom. And the thing is, we've discovered it's not just affecting a group of astronomers, but it's affecting everybody. It's affecting wildlife. It's affecting our human health and safety. They have done studies. That's why the American Medical Association has tried to give a limit on this amount of blue light at night, because women are at 2 times the rate of risk for breast cancer because of blue light at night, obesity, depression. Now they're linking prostate cancer. They're finding health impacts from a lot of this blue light. And a lot of this blue light comes from LED light. And I noticed too, coming in new lights at some of the businesses, and the new businesses will get these LED lights because they're super energy efficient, but they'll just get the brightest out there. And those super, super brights, the ones that are really white, they are actually brighter than daylight. And there's no reason why we need to illuminate something brighter than daylight. Daylight should be enough, and even less than that, because our eyes adapt to the night. The more those lights go in, those lights last for 25, 30 years. And then that blue light scatters. So you see less stars and it scatters and it affects more birds and bats and nocturnal wildlife. And so that's when we talk about what does this entail? It entails a light management plan for the public land managers. And the public land managers for the sanctuary we've identified, 75% is BLM. The second largest landowner is private lands, with most of that being Roaring Springs. Probably maybe even half of that being Roaring Springs because they're so large. And the third largest landowner is the state Division of State Lands, the rangeland areas. And then we have within the sanctuary, we have Malheur National Wildlife Refuge, Heart Mountain National Animal Refuge. Who else is in there? Small communities like Crane would be in there, and Field Station, French Glen. We have in Jordan Valley's not, because it's incorporated. So unincorporated communities are within inside these boundaries because it's hard to create a contiguous area unless you Swiss cheese the little communities out of it. And so what the folks here at this International Dark Sky Association have said is, normally when we have a sanctuary, we have one single land manager, one single light management plan that pretty much says, pass this, these 5 principles, your lighting be useful, targeted, a low level, controlled, and a color temperature, which basically you're thinking warm. Think of firelight. Think of firelight, think of the warm light. There's that. But they have said the light management plan only applies to the public land managers, or public entities that have facilities. So if the county had lights within the sanctuary, if they manage any street lights in the sanctuary, then those
Like our
lights,
fairgrounds.
is that in the boundaries? I don't believe so.
No, that's in Burns, City of Burns.
Yeah,
Boundaries.
So our cities would not
In the
be,
county,
none of the, right. So we've eliminated any incorporated cities.
but our city boundary and the county where the fairgrounds actually lies are right next to each other. So how close did you draw that
It's,
line?
I think it's at least 15 miles south. It doesn't start, the northern limit
So it
starts really
doesn't
kind of the northern limit
Just
now.
around the town?
Yeah.
It's a
So what
little
we
bigger
tried
than-
to do, if you look at the picture where you can see Burns has a bubble around it. In this picture here, Burns has a bubble around it. And that bubble is really,
Here in highlights.
So it drops.
it's dark. It's darker than, people in Salem and Portland are driving. You're driving 3 hours to get to that kind of dark. So right here in Burns, it's dark. But the sanctuary, the difference of a sanctuary, it's the darkest designation. So all that a sanctuary means for the International Dark Sky Association, which is just a nonprofit, they're not a regulator, they're just, they give out recognition is all they do. They review your application and give the recognition and boost that recognition. And sanctuary is just their word for the highest level of sky quality, meaning, you know, less light pollution in the sky, and remote. And, you know, we're here in southeastern Oregon. It's few roads, it's remote, low population density, and so we've eliminated any incorporated area. They could be dark sky communities because they're dark enough, but to be a sanctuary, it's the darkest of dark. And so we wanted to have a sanctuary that really represented the basin and range where we're talking about that kind of that bit of that wilderness feeling, and super dark. And so that's why they're excluded.
You may have sort of answered my question, and it's probably in the document, but what's the main difference between a reserve and a sanctuary designation?
So a reserve, they're usually the big ones, like Idaho has the reserve. And what they do is they pick these core areas. And they say, so for Idaho, they looked at the wilderness area. They looked at 2 wilderness areas, and they called that the core. And then they created a big boundary around it. And they said, okay, and all of this area will be the buffer. And this area will adopt, these counties in this area will adopt ordinances to make sure that they don't affect the core. And so IDA said, well, why are you proposing a sanctuary instead of a core? And I said, well, where's the core? The whole area is the core. The whole area is the core. There's no like little one area here. It's all the same. It's all the core. We don't have a national park in there. BLM didn't want to focus on wilderness areas, because then what you get is you get people that will say, well, I want to go to the darkest place, so I want to go to that core, and I'll go to the wilderness area, where everywhere around is the same. And then you have a capacity issue on your wilderness areas. And so this size is as big as it is, and it's not surprisingly big, because the bigger it is, that means all the communities, Burns and Lakeview and Ontario and Jordan Valley, get to be the gateway communities to the sanctuary that's, you know, nearby. And then the capacity, in terms of capacity in such a remote area, we don't have search and rescue issues, because people will just recreate wherever they're going to recreate in that whole entire area again, because it's all completely the same. And that's why we didn't want to be a reserve. And a reserve says that the counties have to adopt ordinances. And I said, this is Oregon. We do things voluntarily if it makes sense. We don't do things because you know, by rules. And you could have an ordinance, and you know, it takes 10, 15 years later for people to even know an ordinance exists. The state has had an ordinance for all public buildings, which would include municipal and county buildings, that any new lights be fully shielded. That's been on the books for 10 years. Who knows about it? But who's not going to know when you have a sanctuary this size? I mean, this will be in the New York Times.
So where is Lake County and Mount Airy County on this?
Malheur counties had a meeting just like this. The Friends of the Hawaii have presented there. We've done an outreach. So that it was just, you know, to bring them on board. Lake County has had a similar meeting. And now we get to be here in person for Harney. And the only reason that the counties are so late, again, is because we've done everything online, and with the biggest landowners being the public agencies, we needed to get the public agencies on board. And the biggest task was getting a boundary that everybody agreed to, getting all the public agencies on board, because we didn't want to engage the counties and take up the county time, you know, at least the county officials' time, because everybody in the community has been welcome to these meetings. We've tried to get it announced until everything else was lined up, and now we're lined up.
So then, following on, next question from Lake County, Mount Airy County, then to the Bureau of Land Management, which is the largest landmass owner in the area. What have they in support of, or whatever? What have they done, or what are they proposing to do?
So they will be part of a light management plan, and we're hoping too that the county would be part of the light management plan too. That's just an option, or do something similar. And because we're gonna have one light management plan, because there's multiple agencies involved, there's a memorandum of agreement. And so they have reviewed 6 iterations of this light management plan. They have reviewed this memorandum of agreement, which just really lays out the roles and responsibilities that they would adopt. Basically, this light management plan, which essentially has those principles that I passed around that card, which is just like only where you need it, when you need it, you know, fully shielded, warm color temperature. And then the counties, only if you have facilities, which my understanding is from Harney Electric Co-op, that the county doesn't have any lights, that the county's not responsible, doesn't own or maintain any lights in what we call the sanctuary boundary.
Our county yard in on the East Steens
Mm.
would be our property. Diamond. We have a yard in
You're
Diamond.
talking about the road department yards,
Department.
I guess.
I mean, that's the only
That's all I can think of.
improved in holdings that we have anywhere.
Think so.
So you do have county land. Okay, but Harney Electric said no lights. There are no lights. And so what it would mean if you have lands, and so far Malheur doesn't have any county lands in the sanctuary. Lakeview, or rather Lake County just has a tiny little park with no lights. The plan would say, if you plan to put in lights, use these kinds of lights. So it doesn't say, don't put in the lights. If you plan to put in lights, do this.
We do have lights. That's what
Oh,
I know our,
I
I know our road department property on the East Steams is it's a residence and a shop building for the road department, a residential road department employee lives there. And I'm sure they have a yard light, you know, rural road yard lights. I'm sure they have that kind of lighting in there. On that property.
Yeah, and if you could provide me that location too, because that's what I wanted to check. So the language that I have here then for others, like for folks that actually have a light, the first paragraph of what's in the memorandum of understanding says, where we do have existing lights, we'll retrofit them up to 90% to be dark sky, consistent within 5 years, and within 10 years to be at 100%. So there's time to do something. And what we found with these places too, like Boulder City in Nevada, they just got $1.3 million to retrofit all their streetlights with grant monies because they said we're next to a dark sky park.
From federal funds?
Federal funds.
And what kind of legislation is coming along with those kind of funds?
Well, that came from the EDA money for the tourism. And the local tourism, Lake County Chamber of Commerce just got grant monies from Travel Oregon for tourism because the dark sky is a tourism. They just got some grant money to have a dark sky coordinator there on the ground. So monies like that to do these things, and then for the lights themselves to just say, this is an economic, we're trying to market dark sky tourism. And it doesn't mean just astronomy people, it could be people cross-country skiing at night, doing nighttime activities, having guides. So where they find the stimulus is that people who live here are already here, could be guides. Could be guides on the waters, could be guides, taking groups out at night who don't go, especially people from outside the area who never even could see the place like this. Take a moonlight walk with a guide, and then somebody has a job.
So I guess then the last question, and you kind of hit some of it, I believe, but what is the commitment that goes along with a proclamation or a resolution by the court or whatever? What kind of commitment goes along with that?
Yeah, what we heard, we met with the executive director last Friday from IDA, and he said, especially if the county had no lights, and so this is new information, because I had just had the information that the county had no lights through Harney Electric. But he said some kind of forward gesture to show that there's support, so a written letter of support, like a one-page letter of support from the county. A signatory now, if you do have a lights, a signatory that, within 5 to 10 years, and it doesn't have to be the county, there are other lights. There are other lights, so you could be, and all the lights are included into one big pocket when you say 67%, 90%, 100%. So yours could be at the very end in 10 years. To sign on to that memorandum of understanding with the other folks.
Well, then does that come with ordinance creation for future development or existing developments, ranch life properties and whatnot?
Just for county facilities and county lands. So that was part of what took us a long time, because other sanctuaries, you know, it's all the lights within the sanctuary, because it's just usually a state park. But we said
there's-
that's not gonna work.
No regulation, no ordinance or regulation comes along for private property owners.
Right. We've been under that impression from the very beginning, and then in November, when we put together a preliminary application for one of the staff to review, came back and said, you have to do an ordinance for the whole county. And I said, well, maybe an overlay, because there's very few people there, and not for existing. And she said, no, there had to be an ordinance. And she's gone now, and we met with the executive director Friday and had it 4 times, had him confirm no. So we're back where we were when we started, because we never were going to be doing this with having the counties having to adopt an ordinance. And whether people would be agreeable or not, I said, that takes time and resources are limited within our state. You know, we're 20 years behind in a BLM resource management plan. Some comprehensive plans are 10 years behind. To get an ordinance is a big ask for an area that's been doing what they've been doing so well. That's like only acknowledging people who recycle and not acknowledging people who don't create the waste in the first place.
Okay.
I'm taking this in as information
Yeah.
today.
Mhm.
You know,
And that's all I'm
definitely,
presenting you.
yeah.
Yeah, and I was gonna just ask if they had any further questions, but just as a informational point today, and we can research and discuss more in future.
Yeah, and any kind of questions, but you know, something for the revised application, we would need something to at least let the review committee at the International Dark Sky Association know that we're not moving forward without the support of the county. And we've always felt that there was some level of support, because the county has been part of conversations, what the boundaries are, and vital to even helping us get these maps.
So do you have a proposed timeline that they're wanting something by?
You know, the holdup right now, frankly, is Bureau of Land Management. Bureau of Land Management at a district level has all been on board, but because there's 3 districts, they said, we want state office to do it. And he's a new official, and it's just not a priority. And so we're waiting on BLM. So we're just trying to get everything together. So I'm going out to do the inventories, and just for your, information too. Part of this is doing the inventories for private and public, to do as much as we can, to just get an idea of year after year, is it making a difference? But nobody, any private inventory I'm doing, they don't have to do anything to their lights. It's all voluntary. But I just need to inventory in this part of the application.
I guess because it's Oregon Outback Dark Sky Network at the top of this page. Sometimes I just wish that efforts would go more toward the areas that where they think they could move the needle. I mean, this place is fine, right, for now, and it's been fine for many, many years. And back in 2001, the year before we moved here, I went to a small planetarium with our little girls, and they had the picture of the one page of the U.S. and the dark areas in Harney County. I said, we're going to the darkest place. That's pretty cool. And but anyway, oftentimes, whether for any type of conservation or things like that, we who are green here already, we who are dark here already, we have the advantage of lots of space and few people and all that. But I just like to see the efforts more on those fringe areas than here. In general, I'm
And
not
believe
saying
me,
I'm
I
not
mean,
hearing
I've
what you're
been
saying,
working
but
with the state and the people in the state to get a better state rule. I've been working with ODOT so that the lights that they put in aren't 4,000 Kelvin bright or 3,000, which is enough, especially when it rains here and it makes more glare. I've worked with the city of Portland. They just said they adopted a dark sky strategy. They just $200,000 they're spending right now. They bring somebody on board and a consultant to create an ordinance for the city.
Okay.
So this is a statewide effort,
Okay.
but
I know
this is going to be
Deschutes-
so much more in your face to all the surrounding communities and to the whole Pacific Northwest region to say, be like them.
I know Deschutes County, it's either Deschutes County or Bend, city of Bend has some pretty strict lighting requirements. I mean, they have neighborhoods that are dark because they don't want street lights and everything. And that's fine, you know, some people are okay with that, other people aren't. And, you know, if you want to move to that kind of a neighborhood, that's a person's choice or whatever. So I'm just concerned about regulation, whether there's any now or in the future as it comes up, because we commit to a designation like this. That's my concern myself.
So the program itself is 20 years old. And only those folks who, if you're a dark sky community, having an ordinance on the books is part of it. If you're a dark sky reserve, having an ordinance is part of it. If you're a dark sky sanctuary, it's not.
Have you ever had any entity be one of those and then withdraw later to not be one?
No, and there's only been one that didn't withdraw on its own. It was a Golden Dale Observatory up the, near Yakima in Washington. And it was a state park and they had an old historic observatory there. And so, the community, there are folks that are like, well, let's be the first dark sky park in Washington. And then a new ranger came on board and they put in new lights in the parking lot and nothing was dark sky friendly and they weren't abiding by it. And a lot of the people who cared about it, they complained and it got, and then IDA got worried because they weren't abiding by the terms that they said they would abide by. It's a gentleman's agreement. And the worst thing that happens is they revoke their certification. There are no fines. There's nobody going to jail. It's just they lost their, and that's the only one out of over 200.
What does it's the IOIDSS,
That's-
OOI,
Yeah, WEDIS, I just go because it's Oregon Outback International Dark Sky Park, but Dark Sky Sanctuary. rather.
what are the affiliations? Are there, and then like a parent umbrella organization and whatnot, what are their affiliations with other entities? Are there, so I
So
guess,
what the,
so I guess first off is OOIDSS. What,
that's just the abbreviation for this sanctuary
Okay.
nomination.
and what's the?
And
is
then
there a-
ODSN, Oregon Outback Dark Sky Network. That's just this ad hoc group that I said, it has no official capacity, is not a 501c. It's just really the grassroots, the name for the grassroots of everybody who's on board.
Is
with
there
it.
a parent organization affiliation?
There's not a parent, I would say there's a project advocates and the project advocates that are behind it that are, kind of getting things facilitated are Travel Oregon, Eastern Oregon Visitor Association, and Travel Southern Oregon.
So there's no national or international affiliation with any organizations?
The International Dark Sky Associations, the nonprofit, the international nonprofit that's headquartered in Tucson, Arizona, which has all dark sky friendly lights, 40,000 in a community of over 500,000. You can still see the stars. They only have a staff of maybe 10 people. It's really volunteers from all over the world that keep the mission going. The staff is just 10 and they just put together some outreach materials and direction. And they're just, like I say, they're just a nonprofit whose mission is to protect the natural night sky.
And what's the full title of that organization?
International Dark Sky Association, soon to just be called Dark Sky. They're just going to change it to it's lots easier, less of a mouthful.
Okay,
So I did put in there the proclamation is coming up here in April 15th to 22nd is International Dark Sky Week. And so kind of doing something in celebration of that or recognition of that just shows some kind of support and also coincides with Migratory Bird Day, and migratory birds are very dark sky, natural dark sky is vitally important. You know, migrating birds, 80% of them fly at night, migrate at night. And I wanted to just alert you and I put it in the packet. An annular eclipse is coming up and people will come to this area to see it because it's coming right through and burns in places to stay nearby. And so we're hoping to have something in the works enough with enough support so we have our application too, when we can start kind of promoting the annular eclipse.
I remember seeing it in there somewhere.
Yeah, so I think you all have, and I believe you are, I am a delegate, I'm an official delegate of IDA, which is not a paid position, it just means that I'm, you know, in my semi-retirement, this is just work that I do as both the natural resources manager and as a astronomy advocate and a person who deeply loves my state.
Well, you've been very informative
Thank you.
because I didn't want to take chemistry and all that. I took astronomy with astronomy lab for my science in a huge planetarium. Thursday nights at 11 p.m. was our lab nights.
Awesome.
It was a big telescope. It was awesome.
I've taught over 150 classes in astronomy. I read every book in the library before I was 8, and I never took a class, a formal class, you know, just a great course kind of thing.
It was good.
But I've been active because I think it leads us to
I love it.
just explore ourselves and just looking up there. You know, for me, it's kind of a spiritual thing more than anything else. It's like, if we don't see our place under the stars, then we'll get too big for our pants. And we're these generations that are following up, they have no idea what the sky looks like. And so I just want to maintain them.
So quick question from public.
Sure. Where are you from? Philadelphia. Is my accent pop out?
No, we haven't seen one. Anyway, if you were living here, our high school has, you know, the facilities to teach astronomy. I guess I really have I just think it's so easy to give away with what's not yours. And I live 45 miles out. I don't want to be a city. I really don't. And part of the reason I feel that way is because I looked at the website before. And one of the comments was saying that it represented the people of Lakeview. And it gave a population number, which was similar to like 99% of the population number, saying they supported this. And I would say that probably 98.9 of the people out there didn't know what it was.
I don't know it.
But anyway, I just didn't like the tactics of that. And I think if you're going to make a sanctuary in Harney County, then you need to address the people.
We would definitely need outreach and everything, because I don't want that kind of misunderstanding.
Mhm.
Well, this was an excellent introductory presentation to us. I appreciate it because I'd read some stuff and you know what you're talking about, and you're a very good speaker. So thank you.
Yeah, well, I hope you'll strongly consider it because it all with you folks, you know.
I don't know, to fulfill that outreach, that community outreach element, and I don't know if we could get that done by the next county court. And the next county court would be in 2 weeks, and that would be the time when we would propose a proclamation or something. So I don't know if we timeline wise, if we would be able to get this done by this bird festival.
No, it's really just, you know, on your timeline when you're comfortable. We're just, you know, going slow to go fast. We just want, you know, and we have made so many efforts to bring folks, and I'm sorry, but I'm not clear what you saw in terms of the level of support. We've reached out to folks as much as possible, and I can say for everybody that we have heard from, we put, you know, announcements, outreach events, saving the dark things in Lakeview, and there's, you know, we don't have like a person right here in Harney who's been the spokesperson, like people from Friends of the Hawaii or Lakeview Community Partnership that's been engaged and so forth, to do as much here. And we tried to get folks from, you know, Portland Audubon to be more active, and but you know, COVID kind of thing. And so, you know, any kind of outreach where we just had some innocuous type of outreach event as well here is a possibility to do that, have information and brochures, but we just really, nobody wants to force anything on anybody.
When we determine a path or a plan, we would probably reach out for that kind of assistance and outreach before making a designation decision. So anyway, Leland, thank you very much for
Thank you.
your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll leave these here with you too. These are the kinds of flyers that IDA puts and we would put our own together, but just kind of little information. It's, for most people, it's just like, I didn't know, you know, and then as soon as they realize, you know, if it's a pole versus that pole, make a difference.
So have you been in much contact with Oregon Trail Electric as well?
With who?
Oregon Trail Electric?
No, from what I could
Okay.
discover, I just saw that it's for the sanctuary area, it's Surprise Valley Electric, Harney Electric, and Idaho Power.
OTEC is a major power operator here.
They're mostly, you know,
They're
Burns
probably
Hines.
more-
Oh, okay, so they're right in sanctuary, yeah, so I was just.
But if you're looking
Right.
at ways that it affects the fringe, they would be
Yeah.
a point of contact
So-
that you'd want to.
Yeah, we've been in communication with them, so if people within the sanctuary, it's time for a new light. And then it, you know, they could get help from the co-op to say, well, here's an energy efficient and it won't, you know, warmer temperature and it won't pollute the sky.
Can I ask you a question as an astronomer? In terms of, I really thought satellites are more of an issue because I've read some articles about where astronomers were saying they couldn't even take a picture without it. Street across.
It's, that's not like a big issue. And I
No,
tell
not
you,
today.
Like,
That's because they
Well,
just
you
have.
know, Elon Musk and.
Excuse me. If we could continue with the agenda, if you want to pursue conversation, please.
Let me give you my,
So we do have scheduled an executive session for today, but do we want to finish up the regular items on the agenda? Conduct the executive session and then adjourn, or do you want to come back from the executive? session?
Whatever you want.
I'd like
whatever
a
you
short
want.
recess at least.
Okay. The one topic for executive session, and it'll be quick, but the one topic I was gonna have HR kind of brief on one aspect of it.
Whatever works for you guys. I do need to take a restroom break here.
Okay. What's your availability?
Or after lunch.
Do you want to recess until lunch?
Why don't we?
Okay.
I have a couple emails.
Re-
I need to
recess
reply
till
to.
when?
1:15?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So let's finish up the rest of it right now, or there's almost,
We
or,
can-
or what did you want?
There's
some
correspondence. Is that really our-
Yeah. So I have in the packet some correspondences. Mr. Smith, Tim Smith had a
Is this
document
an
that,
additional one? I didn't actually open it. He was on there last time, wasn't he?
yeah, this is a letter that he wanted just in the packet. This is
Isn't this the same one from last time? though?
I don't think so.
I believe it is. I don't think it needs to be on there every month
No,
or every
I
meeting.
didn't. Is it on there from last month?
Yeah,
Yeah, I have a copy.
I remember seeing it last month.
Okay, if it was on there last month, then you can remove it from this month, just as long as it's in the,
Or this week.
or this,
Sorry, not month.
from the previous county court, remove it from this one.
I will check to see if it's on there already. In the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty.
Was
I remember
I
seeing
think
it
it
last-
January.
Last,
Yeah, I don't think it was the same, if it wasn't the same, but
from the heading, it looks the same.
I'll find out in previous.
anyway, so he just wanted it. He just wanted it on the record, so to speak. And then other correspondence that I didn't have added, but just a couple of letters from the Bureau of Land Management. One just notifying BLM Vale District Now Here Field Office is accepting pre-scoping comments on proposed gold mine by Calico Resources, a wholly owned subsidiary of Paramount Gold Nevada Corp. And it's in from the map that they gave, it looks like it's solely in Now Here County. But anyway, so we got that from the Bureau of Land Management, and another one from the Bureau of Land Management. Is initiating a public scoping period for the development of programmatic National Environmental Policy Act document that will analyze a suite of aquatic and riparian habitat restoration activities on BLM administered lands in Oregon and Washington, east of the Cascade Mountains. No specific areas other than that. But they're not in the packet. I didn't have them for. So. But you can add them. And then a couple of letters of support that I was requested a meeting or two ago when Mr. Roy came in and asked for a letter of support. I included that letter in the packet. And then just briefly this past week, Oregon Cattle Women and the Oregon Beef Council and Team Beef Oregon requested a letter of support and authorization for their ranch run. Is a half marathon event that will be on June 10th, I believe. June 10th and 11th. So there's a copy of that letter of support. And then the letter and documentation from Biz Oregon.
Yeah, did Commissioner Shellman ever get that information?
It's in the packet, isn't it?
This,
Yeah.
All this, but like, well, we can discuss it. There is a loan coming due, that should come from the mineral.
oh,
organization.
I'm aware of this. Courtney Crowell had contacted me about it
And
last fall.
anyway, it's
Yeah.
due in May, $125,000. The company did not meet its
Right.
FTE requirement of creation and maintaining a certain level. This all has to do with the Ventura Cutoff Road stuff. And the MOU clearly states that it is that company's responsibility. However, that's an MOU between us and them from some years back, and it's coming due, and the state's going to look at us for the money. So Judge Hart has provided
have
all
you
that.
talked to
We're talking to Feather of Business Oregon.
Courtney has got a lot of information on it.
Okay. Courtney.
Courtney Crowell from Regional Solutions.
So I have had county council review it. I gotta acquire or get some other information for him.
Yeah, I
We
would
can
reach
discuss
out to
that
her
in-
before
So
you
what,
get any further.
Courtney?
Yeah, I can share her contact info with
Okay.
you, but she had reached out to me last fall, letting me know that this was coming down the pipe, but she said they didn't have anything formally happening. It's now
And-
happening. but
And that'd be good to talk to her. Feather is directly Biz Oregon, so she
Yeah.
she provided
is-
a lot of all the documents, since this predated our being on the court. when
So
it
I will
was originated.
follow up with her and I'll get that contact information and see. Add what information she has to the information that county council has.
That'd be good.
The only other thing.
Yeah, Courtney was instrumental in all that occurring and is very knowledgeable about what occurred and what's.
I think we know what
unoccurring.
occurred. We now have to make sure we don't get pulled in the bag.
No, she said that the company is aware and going to be paying it. So.
Yeah, we just want to make sure there's at least one communication between us and the company, and it doesn't just assume, everybody assumes.
So I haven't reached out to Mount Here County yet and everything because I wanted county council
Well,
to look at things first.
it was one of those situations where things that it lies in Malheur County. It's a little bit strange that Harney County was the one that took it up.
Judge Joyce said, you're welcome to call him, but really, they have nothing to do with that aspect
did.
of the deal. That's on us and the company, and he,
For some reason, it was ran through Harney instead of. Malheur
Yeah.
at the time.
I mean, that's all I have for correspondence. And then just scheduling. Unless you guys had anything correspondence related.
I do have the deal that I told you guys that I have. I did not get it scanned.
I'll want to have stuff in general deliberations later, but if we're gonna take a break,
Okay.
we ought to take a break.
Yeah,
Okay,
and I'll get this scanned.
okay. So, regular session then will stand adjourned.
Or recess.
At recessed. We'll stand recessed at 12:19 PM to reconvene at 1:15 PM.
And you go straight into executive session.
So are we gonna go straight into executive session at
At
that time?
1:15.
At 1:15 and then come back out of that and finish up
Right.
regular meeting?
Yes. That's good.
Okay, thank you all. You're looking rather dapper today. Every day, right? Every day.
All right, county court resumed general session at 2:43 PM. Remaining agenda items. So we went through correspondence, scheduling. Next regularly scheduled county court dates are April 5th, 10 AM. Oh, that's one thing I kind of wanted to ask you guys too, since we've been going a little bit longer on these. Are you interested in moving it up a little bit earlier, 9:30-ish?
You could.
I
I
mean,
didn't really remember why we moved it back a little bit.
Actually, it's funny, Pete implied it was for me because I'm not a morning person, but I had not asked him to do that at all. And he said, so I thought maybe he had some morning call or something that he liked to attend, maybe that helped him out.
We
Because
used to meet at 9 and then start at 9:30, didn't we?
we've all, the public meeting was always at 10. Now it's at
Oh, maybe it's
10:30.
9:30, then we met.
well,
Yeah,
that's what I was wondering, if you want to just bump it back a half hour and see how that goes.
I'm fine.
Bill pay at 9:30 and then start the public regular agenda, whatever.
That might be a good
I
idea.
think our public still is trained for 10 in general.
So if we
We'll
switch
need
it
to
back
retrain
now.
a few. As long as we communicate it out well, I
Yeah.
have no problem
Yeah.
with that, yeah.
Okay. But it's something I wanted to ask, propose.
I'll get a couple less things done.
So then I will, yeah, I'll make sure it's changed on the agenda. I'll make sure it's changed on the website. Etc.
Are we recording?
Yes.
No, we are, okay. Yeah.
I just didn't turn the screen
Okay,
back on.
no, that's
I
fine.
think it should.
Late items we already took care of, general deliberation by the court. And just
A
real,
couple question on scheduling. So is the SEAC meeting tomorrow, 9 to noon? In
That was-
Burns?
that was on my
Oh,
notes.
the
That was in my general.
the one that you. and
Oh, okay.
Paul-
If that's in
Paul
general
set up.
deliberation, that's fine.
So the only two things I had for just general deliberation, the conversation was, yes, SEAC is tomorrow, 3/16 at 9 o'clock at the community center. They scheduled it here months ago before I ever started, and I really didn't even know what that entailed. So I called them and said, hey, what's Harney County need to do? You know, am I supposed to provide this or that or whatever? Yeah,
Can we zoom in?
um,
I'd like to listen in, but
I will
it
see,
conflicts with something I have.
I should have an agenda today. If I don't, I need to call Sean Maloney, I think is his name, who's basically ramrod in this, yeah. And see if there is, and I will get it to you. I'll email it to you. But because our downstairs conference room is tied up Tuesdays and Thursdays with AARP, I had to find another location for it, and I went to the community center. Fee was $87.50 with for half the room. I only reserved half the room because there should be more people than that.
Okay.
And the use of their audio visual equipment. So you may have, I don't know if you saw that charge on the credit cards or not, but.
Okay.
Or it wasn't on the credit card, it was just a check. But anyway, so that was part of my general deliberation information. And I wanted to let you guys know that we selected and hired and offered, and the offer was selected for an executive assistant, and that is Tammy Renfro.
And she will start.
on 21st, March 21st.
Awesome. Good on her. Where's she gonna sit?
Interim, interimly at Carrie's desk, and I've already talked to Dag about that, just very interim. We're hurting for space here.
You know, I
I
see,
think,
I see those election rooms just sitting there empty
I know
most of
it.
the year, and one of them would be just fine for her, not. I just don't want her to get sucked up into the dynamics, you
I
know.
don't, I don't,
There's plenty for her to do
Yeah.
for the county court now.
so, and we may be able to do that for a little bit, I don't know yet, but ultimately, I think I've kind of expressed with you guys that what I'm kind of thinking about doing is taking this room and cutting it in half. And we'll have, Jeremy will relocate, and we'll have a commissioner's office there, a commissioner's office here. And my office would be here with the adjoining door to this office. And that's where administrative assistant and there's room in that office for 3 to 4 desks.
What about our meeting room?
Downstairs? Oh, you mean for county court?
Yeah,
So that's when I'm looking at moving it downstairs.
because we have enough things, not just for us, but for other entities that use meeting room. I think we need to. I kind of think we need to, don't you?
No,
No, you don't think so?
No, I
Oh,
agree.
I was gonna say,
We
maybe I'm
are-
wrong. but
These, both of these.
Not just for county court, but for many things.
This is a tough building to strategize any good, like the way we did it last time, where we created this space versus that space. Was to try to, shuffle the dice a little differently and make it better. I think it made it better in general. From what I understand, it did make it better, like within the clerk's world. And just those dynamics, but as far as making this a better meeting space for the court was good. Downstairs, I just hold meetings down there. It's an awkward room. Like
Well, it
this
was
is
my-
nice where it has better rectangular depth, a little more width, where that other one is so long and
Plus,
narrow.
It'll just
I
cut,
don't know.
cut
Well,
down.
I seen this head table at one end of that room with then the other table.
But there's a
going
lot,
outward
there's a
from
lot
that.
of entities that, whether they schedule it officially or not, that use that room to meet. Because my office is there, I hear, I'll see
The
small
sheriff's
groups of
department's
an
very
out-of-town
common.
person from the state is coming and they just informally meet, somewhere where they can, different entities, and there's a lot of law enforcement related meetings and things down there. And a lot of different entities meet and there might be a meeting going on up here as well, different kind of things, and then 4-H and this and that.
I don't know where else to go. I don't,
I see why you're proposing it, just because.
Yeah.
I mean, would I like to have some space in there? Yeah. But that's gonna be a battle that,
Well, and at election time, I know we don't have elections all the time, but when it is election time. And the constraints of that. It is what it is, like. He is required to have what he has.
so then maybe if we, instead of putting a wall across here, we put a wall across the back half of clerk's office to create that space.
The clerk's office has spread out over the years. At the same time, they even removed a whole bunch of the old stuff that used to take up space. And so tactful conversations about what's the best way to accommodate things, and yet, nobody needs to build an empire. I don't mind staying downstairs if, unless you already have something planned for downstairs.
Well,
Free up.
my goal was just to put us all in the same range for public access,
I don't mind being downstairs.
and you don't even have a space.
She likes being home. No. And out of her car like I did the first couple of
It's
years.
one of those situations where,
She lives close enough now.
well, I actually do live really close, which is different than.
Yeah, I
yourself.
was ahead of her time. But
It's one of those situations where I meet with the public wherever I am, and so having an office is nice just where you can have stuff, but.
Right,
I
but
don't
we'll
know.
have to,
It's one of
We'll
those,
have to-
whatever I'm kind of like, until we can get some of our other goals accomplished, my office space is not a priority to me for this county versus what we need to do there, which could then, in the long run, we know years from now, realistically, would create the space that we're lacking.
I would
It's
hope,
like kind of, I hate to prioritize something that down the road will have potentially space freed up. It's just not in the short.
I just hope your executive assistant can work well for you where they get
For
located,
us.
for all of
Yeah.
us.
You know,
for us.
But it's never been a problem for me to find them if they were gonna help me with anything, but for if they're good, if they click, they will be your right-hand person and an extension of a staff for us to, look toward at
even just
times.
scheduling things and some of the, stuff that it'd be nice to send a quick email and be like, hey, can you work on?
Can you
this?
distribute
You know,
that? Can you
that-
do?
Those things would be
that-
nice that
that
we're
would be good.
missing.
So anyway, that's all I had for
And what was the name again? Sorry.
Hemi Renfro. You know the doors? Down in Fields, Jake,
Oh,
that owns the field
yes,
station.
yes.
That's her family.
Okay.
Doors, is that right?
I don't
It's
know.
doors.
That doesn't ring a bell to me.
Downs.
Down.
Downs.
Thank you. I'm
Downs.
like.
I knew doors didn't sound right either, Downs.
Okay.
The Downs, she's from the Downs family field station.
If you don't mind, I want to run through my list real quick because I know we're here late, but I just not trying to be
Nope, go ahead. I'm
naggy.
done.
I just want to make sure nothing's falling through the cracks. Declaring an ordinance designating the fairgrounds as an emergency management response center. Is there anything you've seen about?
Are you saying
fact-
ordinance or
Is there something
resolution?
at the AOC kind of level that's or the counties are needing to do something administrative for what's going to come down in the future of funding and ability to, something that officially says our fairgrounds is our designated emergency management response center for blah, blah, blah. Has anyone heard anything?
Staging
Let me
area.
just say that might
Well,
be
there's a
something.
bill that talks about that, but I mean, in the conversations we've had and that Lindsay's had at OFA, I mean, they kind of just talk about that as though it already is, but I don't know, like.
I don't
to say
think Lindsay would have heard
officially,
about it. I'll
They
keep my
did,
ears
they did
open.
talk a little bit about it, but more just that it's considered one, whether it's anywhere officially in writing.
You know how you'll hear something from legislature or staff saying, well, 26 out of this counties are gonna be this. Anyway, just let's all keep our ears
Yeah,
open
but-
for if that's something that
Could
That's-
benefit us down the
we
road.
need to
even
know
grant
more
wise.
about what it would
It's
need to
really
say.
nothing for the designation.
it,
So
it just makes
resolution-
something.
I
yeah,
think
a
it'd be more of
resolution
a
would-
There
resolution.
might be a need for that. I haven't heard yet. I guess we all got emails
Did you
about.
ask Dag if there's anything currently on file
For what?
for that,
No,
that designates?
I haven't. This is just me scribbling things this week. I haven't asked Dag anything yet. I am out of town this Friday, but I understand that there may be some reporters here. So I don't know if you guys are doing anything, but I just want to say that I am not here, so I'm not trying
Have
to.
you contacted?
I have not replied.
Okay,
I've been hounded through level with them, but have not replied.
okay. We all got an email today that the statement of economic interest filing period is for now, the next 30 days. Make sure you get that. We all get
Oh,
that
yeah, I got
done.
one email. Yeah.
Painful the first time.
I used to have to deal with the government.
No, good.
Looks like the website and our emails launch is going okay, right?
Website or email?
Email.
Email up and going. What
It's the
is
web.
going on with the website? I asked Jeremy briefly and he said, I don't know. She told me she couldn't get to it. So
At any rate, I tried emailing myself with my new email.gov and it did work
how do you do?
last night.
Yes,
Yeah.
I didn't think to try.
So, and then the website doesn't seem like it's like, I don't know, maybe it's yet to come, but no bios, nothing was different, nothing was
Is it the new?
some of this.
It's not up yet.
Okay, all right. Just checking in on that one.
Just a matter of note on your email. Jeremy said on our iPhones, he does have to set that up with Apple on the iPhone.
I did
the
mine
new-
yesterday,
Okay,
thank God.
okay, because I brought it up to him and I said, oh, then I'll need.
I just relogged into mine was all.
He said with Apple, he had to set it up differently.
I just let him do it.
Yeah, I had to relog in with my .gov email and my password.
And it just.
Yeah.
Oh. But
It
you use your
prompted me.
old password?
Well, here
Did you
about a
try
week
again?
or two ago, it prompted me to change my password.
Already.
Yeah, and I don't know why, but it said I had to change, so I changed it. And then now, and that was before I had to re-log in with the .gov email address. So I had reset it before then, and I did it just the other day, and it seems to be working, so.
I'll work on mine.
So, the wildlife budget, you're on top of all that.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Just an FYI, yesterday when I was talking to, Leslie Richmond brought to my attention, did I know that veterans who need home health or hospice, who get referrals from a medical entity, that they're not able to get it because VA doesn't pay. So I'm going to begin to look at that from every level. I'm sure if Jody's tried, I want to hear what Jody says. I want to hear what, then, you know, if it's just that VA doesn't pay, then is and won't, is that the option that then can they also get on OHP and then get it that, I mean, how can they they're not getting served with home health and hospice in this county apparently. Because of that, veterans who need home health or hospice services are,
Hospice is a Medicare thing, isn't it?
I'm just being told
Are
that
veterans not eligible for Medicare? I mean, veterans who have veteran health care, are they not eligible?
my
for-
husband has Medicare Advantage and VA. So I think you can get some forms of it at least. I don't know. I don't have VA, but
Yeah.
I'm
may
new
be
at all,
wrong. I may be wrong.
but
I thought
at any rate,
I thought Medicare paid. For
it sounds like
Or-
if
But you
if-
haven't spoke to Jody yet.
no, I just was told this yesterday. So I'm going to,
Work.
she's a volunteer.
She's a
with
volunteer.
them. So, you know, more to come on that. LCHIP used to be LCAC, Local Community Health Partnership. So I wasn't that involved in it for a number of months because it had morphed into something that didn't need any, they were just always reissuing a Veggie RX program. It's starting to be important again to have meaning. And I went to the meeting and they need a county employee, whether it's just a regular employee or an elected official, a county person to be appointed to be on the regional EOCCO board. And I would like to do that. They would like me to, the LCHIP would like me to do that. So I will probably submit a letter for the next county court meeting or the one after that very soon. I'm going to ask Marcy McMurphy, the person from Gobi, to zoom in, get on the agenda, and she can explain that. It's every other month Zoom meeting. But right now we don't have, you know, it's not like a public health thing. It's a health thing across all the health entities. And I'm very comfortable doing it. I'm happy to do it. So that'll be coming.
I think she was coming to town earlier
The
this
meeting
week.
was
and
yesterday, but because of
roads and
roads, she zoomed in. And so,
So I'd like to talk with her myself and get some more background on this,
mhm,
on the program that we're transferring pass-through funds, basically.
yeah,
And find out the who, what,
I
when,
was
why,
asking
why.
Bobby Joe a little bit about that at the beginning of the meeting today about during the voucher period. She was sitting here and I just kind of asked her more to come on that. I know you're trying to do the budget, so my voice has never come back, so. Broadband, okay, so stuff is, it looks like the funding of broadband action teams is not eligible for the funding coming out of Oregon Broadband Office, but the other stuff is, and if Malheur, Harney, and Grant decide to regionalize partner for
Grant or Wheeler?
Wheeler, then it will probably cost us more like 30,000 each to do a bat. So I'm gonna talk to them and just see if they're kind of comfortable with that, but I'll let you know more once I know more.
Was Business Oregon, didn't they send something that talked about the bats?
Yes, and I'm in touch with these people all the time. I had a Zoom meeting yesterday at
But
four
it's not
thirty.
for funding?
Seth Richardson is the Oregon Broadband Office guy who is going to come and visit us here, probably in April, personally, but, getting it verified, making sure, but, that might be a piece that the counties do have to cough up some of the money. But the rest, GEODC is able and has contracted staff who are really good at that stuff and would take on the applications for the 3 counties for the other stuff, the engineering work, the rapid design stuff. And the way I look at it is we do all this work and then we may sit back and nothing happens, or we may get stuff and implement stuff. But this is the time to get it done. Those broadband technical assistance program grants and things out of Office of Oregon Broadband Office are coming out into April, beginning of May. So it's a good time to begin. I'll let you know more, but I just want you to know that from a dollars perspective, I need to talk more to those counties and see how they're still thinking. The state integrated water strategy, I got reached out to by somebody who wanted to talk to me, and I thought, should I just have Kristen do it? I thought, no, I'll talk to him and see. So the state has an integrated water strategy for the state, and every 5 years they try to update it. And they want to come out to Harney County and, present and, hear from people, etc. And they wanted to know if there's any good dates. This woman did an interview, Zoom, and had someone record my comments. So I want to get a copy of that.
Were they from OWRD or somewhere else?
Probably Portland State University / works with OWRD type of thing. You know how they have contractors from Portland State, a lot of them. I forget her name, but anyway, interesting. And I said, well, we have watershed council, we have community-based water planning, we have stock growers, we have entities, groups that, she said, well, we'd love to have lots of participation. What would it look like to do a good job of outreach out there and presenting? I said, when are you talking about? And she said, like May, June. And of course, life is so busy, but I'm like, well, let me ask around. So I asked Karen Moon yesterday when I saw her just briefly and just said, do you tend to get involved in that? Have you? She said, if they ask us to, we do. So it's been 5 years since the last time. So anyway, I haven't gotten back to her on anything.
Does that encompass groundwater and surface
Yeah,
water?
it
The
encompasses all
same
that.
things were,
She said, have you ever gone to one? I said, before I was involved in county government per se, so it probably would have been more like 10 or 15 years ago as just a community member. I heard they were having something, I went to it. It was at night, it was community center. She said, what do you remember? I said, I remember it was very boring. I said, I remember I listened to it and thought, oh, this isn't really exactly what I thought it was going to be. I guess I can go online and read their lengthy document. And it was just agency people just, talking in the air, frankly. There was hardly anybody there. It wasn't well
Were
attended.
they talking about Harney specifically or just generalities throughout the state?
They started out with, what should the strategy be? What is the strategy statement
when
that
we
will
get our,
we'll do
when
everything?
we get our
And then,
plan done, we'll send you a copy.
but that's before, it was before the awareness of our situation on groundwater had emerged. Okay. So it was, the one I went to was a long time ago, is what I'm saying. And so think about that and let me know. Cause I told her, I said, I'm going to think about it. I'll kind of check around on dates, but I said, there's probably no date that will be the winning date, and I'm thinking maybe one here in, this area, and then maybe one down toward Diamond or somewhere, so that the south end won't have as far to travel or else just have one and make it zoomable, make it so people can listen in if nothing else.
Well, then I guess my question back to her is, what are you doing that community-based water planning isn't doing?
I don't know.
I'd ask her. I'd get her to justify it.
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
and what do you think
when
about me
we've already
what do you
developed
think
all
about
this.
me referring it to the watershed council to be the point of contact for that?
Is this
I mean,
process
I'm thinking-
statutory?
Yeah,
Is it
I think
statutorily
so.
related?
I
Strategic
suspect so.
plan or whatever they're.
Yeah, I think it's,
Water
I
plan,
think
whatever.
it's, the OWRD's got to do every 5 years. Is they have to update their plan and outreach
Is
to the,
this something they go back to the legislature with? Because
I don't
some of those are, they have to go out and do it, and then they have to go back and report to the legislature. I'd ask.
I
her,
would
is
liken
this
it-
something that gets reported back to them, or just to an agency, or to a commission? Where does your delivery?
kind of like
go
a
back
forest
to?
plan, you know what I mean? It's a thing that becomes a reference document that if it's not in the plan, some things can't happen if it's in the plan, or maybe it's a true plan where they're really trying to get a hold of something, but
Yeah.
so far I have not heard that too much in what people call plans anymore. They're just
Yeah.
documents
Yeah.
that they use for budgeting.
Is this
To
different?
justify their own existence.
Is it different than the governor's water plan?
Yes,
'Cause
I mean,
there
I
was
think-
that too, that was presented like at AOC, one of the first times I was a commissioner,
I'd like to think because it's got the word integrated in it, that it would, all these things
Which is
would
what
be
community-based
part of
water
it.
planning is supposed to be, is integrated water planning.
Well, now you know what I know and I get some more questions, but if you're comfortable with me handing it to the watershed council to be the point of contact on outreach, but that we will certainly advertise it and be supportive of getting the word out.
I
I'm
see a
comfortable
lot
with
of
that, but
duplication of effort in a lot of this stuff. It's just like the CRT this next month. I have asked them that we just hold a meeting. I'm not trying to duplicate a topic on childcare. Because there's efforts going on, but I'm not too sure the conversations between people are happening. So that's what I'm trying to do is,
Get all the players in the
Yeah.
room,
I gave,
so same thing I think with this element is,
yeah.
have them come to one of the things that we already have.
yeah.
And the last thing, guys,
Karen would facilitate, hopefully, for them to just come to one of. the
I'm not
things
trying to
we
make
already
short
have.
shrift of
Yeah.
it. I'm just saying, if you need to do it, then
But
someone
we're gonna
needs to
sit
be
down
your
with
point of
them.
contact. I was happy to give you my impressions, information, and ask you some questions, but I'm not gonna take the lead on this as far as making it happen.
Sorry.
I would recommend they have it at the Central Hotel in the afternoon, and then people can go out on the patio and socialize, and then they can go to this community-based water planning meeting after they've had a few, and make it a good meeting, all right? But that's just me, okay? So, and the last thing is, so Susan Christensen had sent an email, and I don't know if it was to you and me, to all three, I don't remember a while back, but on the Department of State Lands.
Yeah, I got that.
What was it? No, anyway. As it relate, I think she was thinking on the issue that Mike Davis brought forward. Or was it Paul? On the
Paul.
fact that their roads get washed out somewhat because state lands doesn't quite manage the creeks and stuff. And if he takes the initiative to do so, it can, they said, don't do that. You're not supposed to do that either.
Submerged
And-
Lands Enhancement Fund.
Yes, and then something came out about that. And Susan, for some reason, came up on the net and said, oh, do you mind if I look into this? I feel like looking into this. This might be something that can help your situation. And like, go ahead and look into it, but I haven't heard anything yet. Didn't ask her about it on the broadband Zoom yesterday, but anyway, I don't know if it does or doesn't relate.
So are
but
you following up on that, or are you? with
do you want me to
Susan,
follow
or-
up on it?
Well, you
Or
were.
you? I'm
originally
not trying to
talking
take it from you.
Paul and the department.
Did you and Eric
Eric and
make
I
a
had
call?
yes, we had a Zoom call, whatever, with Department of State Lands. And they seemed very receptive on looking into finding some way to help mitigate or do things differently.
So this may or may not truly apply to it, but it does have some possible attachment to it. Do
Well,
you?
it's for debris removal in general, or?
It's for, it's kind of broad.
This submerged Lands.
all I know is what was on that one letter or memo. So it seems I didn't sit there and click into different websites to
Maybe I
read
didn't
up
get
on
the
it.
same one that you got. All I think I says that one brief memo was like one little.
I'll give
paragraph.
Susan a call and I'll ask her to email all of us, whatever she's thinking. How about
Yeah,
that?
because I mean, if it's floodplain stuff, we might find some applicability in different places for grants for that.
But if it can help solve the problem down south that has an individual citizen has been diligently trying to do good.
Well, I think that the issues down south are gonna deal with authority and permissions first. You know, funding,
That's
if
fine.
permissions and authority are given by DSL to go in and do work, mitigating work or preventing work ahead of time, then they need to find funds to help do it.
I'll let Susan report back to us on what she finds
Yeah,
out.
details.
Okay, that's all I had, guys. Just want to make sure you're hearing some of the stuff I'm hearing and filling me in on what you got that I don't know about.
HB 3185, which is a Harney County specific bill relating to flood mitigation, appropriates money from the Oregon Department of Administrative Services for distribution to Harney County for flood mitigation. This is the work we've had done with the FEMA stuff, you know, with the firm that designated that there are some pinch points that we could potentially address. This is trying to seek funding, go address those pinch points.
Why is it DAS? More administration.
Trying to get that all the money. If it makes it through Ways and Means, you deal with us.
Okay,
So they had a work session just to move it out of the House Committee on Emergency Management, General Government and Veterans to Rep. Owens Committee. It does not have a hearing date as of yet, but once it does, I'll let you know.
That's
We
not
are
the same, that's not the same one about the money to the High Desert
No,
Partnership.
that's HB 3222. It did have a hearing. It did move out of committee. It's on its way to Ways and Means.
Because I emailed support on that one.
Oh,
They
good.
had asked for support on that.
Yeah, and I
had added-
testified on it and
I think it was a letter and I added told them to add my name to
yeah,
it.
Bob
Yeah,
probably reached out to
yeah.
you. Yeah, and so Bob's keeping that one alive. They're also going to help us with this one. They're gonna step up and give us letters of support in return on this flood mitigation piece. And then I'm also reaching out to the tribe to try to get tribal representation because a lot of the pinch points that we're designating does affect the tribal land that we're trying to help keep floodwaters off. And so we'll try to get somebody from that entity to testify once we get a date that's known. Hopefully it'll be in the next little bit. There's another bill. Oh, the legislative concept that I brought up earlier. It's gonna have a bill number soon. I'll keep you posted. It should go to Rep. Owens's committee too, but it won't get derailed to another committee and then into there. It should go directly to his committee. Harney County is, you know, asking for quite a bit in the legislative session.
I have,
Till June, we'll never know, but
we have a $2.5 million infrastructure ask. For water, sewer, street infrastructure to our industrial property west of the school. So
Brandon visited with me a little bit with that. There was one other email. It was from the Department of State Lands regarding school lands, basically that the state holds within Harney County. They are doing an update to their plan. They hadn't done an update since 2012. Brandon and I are working with that gal to try to find out. Basically, they're saying, what can we do on these lands that we designated as school properties for the state? How can we generate revenue for the school fund off these lands? So they're looking at obviously renewable sightings and all sorts of things that could potentially go on these lands. So we called the tax office and said, okay, well, state land, we don't get tax revenue on it, but if they make an improvement to it and lease that improvement out, or a leasing makes an improvement on it, how does that benefit the county? They gave us a general synopsis that it would benefit us, but Karen was not in that day, and so we're,
It's like our county, like our industrial property and our rental on Kearney. If we use it for county purposes, where we're residing in it and using it for a county purpose, we don't have to pay any taxes on it. But whereas we're using it for commercial base, then the proper taxes have to be paid on it.
but that's when we're talking about, then if that becomes a renewables project. Like the current one, there was a specific tax deal set up
So
and all that, so.
negotiated.
Yeah,
Would we be able to negotiate if it's state lands and this type of project, where does that leave the county? So we're kind of trying to make sure that we're pretty informed before we give final input, and so I'll keep you posted, but we're kind of doing some homework phase of it right now. Of what are you proposing in your plan, and what are you proposing to change in your plan, and how does that affect the county, and how can it benefit us? So that's pretty much what I have. I did try to scan this during lunch break. It didn't come through. I'll scan it again.
what is it?
That bill, but I.
Is that the one that came to your personal mail or whatever?
Yeah, it was sitting in my.
From the BLM?
From the
On
BLM.
a-
That's why they send some of it to one of us, and some of it, I don't know how to streamline some of that. And it doesn't matter. We all get our mail, but. No, it was under my newspaper, and so I hadn't seen it sitting in the box.
I always think of something else I should mention. So yesterday, we had a meeting with Lori Gordon from Oregon DEQ on recycling and the Modernization of Recycling Act. Burns, Hines, Rimrock, CMB, myself. Yeah, Rimrock, Becky was there. Basically on this needs assessment, needs survey assessment that we have to have done by
April
midnight
something.
on 14th of April.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy. It's extremely easy. There's not much to it, but it was just to kind of get us all on the same page, understand what the whole thing is gonna look like, and it's early. None of this is gonna be locked in until 2025, so it's just a very preliminary survey. But anyway, so we had that meeting. It was good. It was a good meeting, but, got some good background information on what things are gonna look like and who's gonna be responsible for what.
Modernization, are they talking about changing how recycling occurs in the state, or are they talking about adding additional capacity
Both.
throughout the state?
A little of both, yeah.
Does any of it come with any funding to
Yes.
help us accomplish
Yes.
it?
Lots of funding,
Okay.
lots of funding.
That's been the
This wish
frustration.
list is for, the survey includes a wish list of what we would like to do. Would we like to expand recycling? And how do we do that? Do we want to expand in a reload station, they call it, and depots? Basically, at the county level with our county landfills, we are going to have depots basically at those landfill sites to recover recyclables from those.
If they provide the funding that will provide staff and infrastructure, and they will pay the transportation differential that we can never be compared to a Salem or anybody else. If we can make it work, because they are going to provide funding, because the state of Oregon thinks this is so important to do, then this is a good thing, but if they don't fund the mandate.
Well, the funding is gonna come from the producers. Like Amazon and all of its cardboard boxes. Chloride, or whoever the manufacturer is of bleach bottles and all that kind of stuff, so the
You mean the
producers.
consumers?
Well, yes, the cost will get passed on. Yeah, and I asked that question ultimately. So anyway, we had that meeting. It was a good meeting. Also, just as a reminder, I need to get scheduled the next Move the Border meeting. That's coming up.
March, April, May, June, July. Wait, it's every 4 months, so March, April, May, June, July. So it'll be sometime in July, the third Wednesday of the month in July, or
I thought
third,
but you
what
guys,
is it?
the last one you did was
March.
No, it was
Oh,
it was
wait.
December,
Oh,
right?
oh, you're right.
So
December.
January, February, March, April.
No, we have
It's
to do it
usually in
November.
March, July and November. We have one in November, December,
Did we
January,
miss it?
February. Oh my gosh, we
Well,
might have to hurry up and have one.
Yeah.
This month.
Yeah, it might. I'll go look and see.
Sometimes we tacked it onto the first 30 minutes of county court and just. kept it.
Oh,
Because there's no-
No,
Well, if it,
but anyways, I gotta get
Okay.
it scheduled.
Okay, okay.
We're due.
yeah.
Which hopefully with an administrative secretary, they
Yeah. And,
that, that's
Um,
like.
oh,
November, December.
and I can take care of this, but Steve Grasty come in and asked a request, and I can do it on my own. Just a signature or whatever, but basically it's a letter of support, requesting a letter of support from myself or the county court as a whole, whichever, for grant application. Same kind of thing I just did for Stevens Mountain Brewing, basically. And I just got this yesterday, so I didn't get it entered. I should have put it on late item.
Could he, is there a timeline that he's trying to get? I don't see
Yeah,
it.
Friday.
Oh,
Okay, what was the other?
And this is kind of a proposed or a sample. I may-
for the museum.
Yeah.
Go
Fun-
for it, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
It would have been nice though, like, if he would have came and presented that.
Well, like I
You know,
said,
for the community to just know even that the museum's going out for X, Y, and Z, kind of like what she did today. I think it's great that it gets captured in our minute.
because it's such short notice, I can put it on the next agenda and. I'll
You could just mention
Well, and if
that
he's
you
already
did that.
applied by
and
then
we-
he can maybe still come present
That's
what
what I'm
they
saying.
applied
That's
for.
what I'm saying,
Yeah,
just so that it gets. Yeah,
yeah, it gets captured.
because I got it yesterday, he needs it by Friday, didn't have time to get it. And I could have done it later.
Oh, that's good. Appreciate you doing that.
So. Anything else?
Heck no.
I gotta go pick up my kids, but I'm gonna try to run scan this one more time.
Okay,
Right,
I can
That's
clarify
standard,
this
it's
for
not
you.
like my computer.
Harney County Court will stand
Robin Teeter.
adjourned at 3:24
I don't know,
PM.
Robin Harkness. She and I-
March.
Just handed
2023.
Teeter off to me.
I'm glad she handed it over
And
to
I
you.
thought, why isn't she?